38, according to my laptop time. And we are starting with the Administration Department, which is on page 23 under the General Fund tab. City Administration consists of the HR Director, the City Clerk, Technology Manager, and Logistics Manager. That's what I'm reading. Is that right, Mr. Bloom?
I'm sorry, which page?
Page 23, under the General Fund tab.
That one does not have the IT.
This one doesn't have IT, so it's separate.
Yes,
Yes, this is what I'm looking at, the staffing.
No, I'm under the administration. The IT tech is under Kelly.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
This is two different things. I take that administration and then.
And break it out.
Okay, my bad.
I know he does have a separate department. Okay, so it's HR, City Clerk, and Logistics Manager. Okay, so that's what you see in here. Again, page 23. There is no revenue, so it's all expenditures. It's part of the general fund. Most of what went up are the things that we expected: the insurance, the retirement, utility services. Again, there's a debt service repayment to the utility fund. Is that City Hall? Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Any questions? It doesn't include HR, I don't think either.
No.
Because HR is on the next page. Okay, so any questions about this? You see there's 80% of the administrative assistant. That's the position that sits in the hallway between the city manager and Latricia, down from the HR. It's the accounts manager, 5% of the accounts manager, 20% of the accounts payable specialist. So it's just those three people. All right, check it off that one. I think we've done about the best we can do on it. All right, next page, 24, is HR. And you do have a handout on the desk from HR. And we will turn it over to Ms. Crystal to give us our presentation.
Thank you very much. I think I might have my own.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Sort of, get closer.
Thank you. That's so much information here. So what you all have in your handouts, it starts with the summary of, thank you, the mission statement. Is basically a summary of my duties, things that I concentrate on, onboarding, city plans, so on. The next page of your of the summary is budget highlights, and the Human Resource Department budget at $92,786 has increased by $10,178 to 12.3% from the previously adopted budget. The Human Resource Department is 100% of the general fund to ensure that employees receive the best possible resources through human resources. We focus on we focus on employee-related training as well as employee retention, incentives, and we continue with continued service as a strategic partner with charter officers, designees, department directors, and the city council. You'll also see that the operation budget decreased by 38.4% on that next page, but there's explanations out beside each one. So I'll start with the salary is an increase. The Human Resource Director salary dollars, including insurance and payroll taxes, are increased based on education, experience, past budget salaries, and pay equity. So based on the budgeted salary of last year, $54,959 for 22-23, this would be a proposed increase of $3.57 per hour based off last year's budget. If you go on over to operations, a lot of things changed because as I researched back on expenditures, there was a lot. It's actually erratic. There was over the last from 21 until now, spending and salaries were just kind of bouncing off the walls. There wasn't really a set, as far as the numbers go. It was just varied. So as I looked at the new hire drug screens, those are, we have a new rate of $55 per person. It used to be $50. And over the last couple of years, we've only hired 14 general staff members and then 8 the year before. So I averaged out around 20 new hires for the year to come up with the 1,500 as off of the drug screening, and then background checks averaging 20 as well. So random drug screens and police drug screens remain separate. Police and fire background checks remain separate. And new educational fees and subscriptions were incorporated. I am sure, so that will stay in place. Prior learning is something that everybody is interested in keeping. It's a very good program that allows for training in various areas, including utilities, administration, safety. There's all kinds of different programs under prior learning that everybody can utilize. Excuse me. As far as advertising and promotions, I went back and looked at the expenditures over that time, and what was allocated for the years before just was not being used. And so for what I would use it for, I just calculated up $1,000. One of the things is new hire packets, forms, and then just special job posts that we would be utilizing that for. Of course, there's the stipends, luncheon, that is for employee incentives, and then the travel and per diem went up on that for adjustments of cost of living, gas, those type things. I did attend FMIT and would like to continue to do that insurance summit. It was very informative. I learned a lot about the League of Cities and how that works. So if you go on over to the summary, I've only been here since February, so during my almost 6 months in this chair of accomplishments, I have worked alongside general staff, fire, police, city council, and city managers to streamline, simplify, and define processes involving career posts, onboarding, benefits, policies, and procedures, and protocol for the city. Worked diligently to establish trust in the Human Resource Department and to create an open door policy for staff to learn and understand and execute positive practices that improve their quality of work, to succeed in their careers, and to better serve the citizens of Williston. The city staff has worked diligently with me to keep their teams informed and educated on changes, updates, news, information regarding policies, procedures, events. It's been a great process over these last like I say, almost 6 months. August will be 6 months. So challenges that we're coming up on, amendments, corrections, and updates to the Human Resource Manual continue. We're looking at digging deep into that and getting a lot of those things updated. Working with FMIT on that as well to update a lot of our safety policies, drug policies, phone policies, all kinds of different things there. So we're going to work diligently to get those updated.
There's no way of knowing. It's just somebody's phone's interfering with the wireless mics.
There you go. So staffing changes regarding pay grades, organizational charts, and job descriptions. We're definitely working on updating all of those, making sure that they are in compliance and making sure that they are up to the Florida state regulations. Minimum wage is going up again in September, and so they definitely working on to making sure that our compensation is in line with that. Now there was, from what I understand, back, let's say 2018, there was a compensation plan created that made for that adjustment to that $12 an hour that is coming up for the minimum wage increase for Florida. So we're kind of working on that. One of the challenges I'd like to present to is establish merit increases based on detailed yearly employee performance evaluation reports. Misspelled that, so sorry. So in your packet, you will see an example. It's a draft of a general staff evaluation form. And this is a draft. And you'll also have in there our current policy on employee evaluations. So what I'd like to do is incorporate this new evaluation form along with our current policy to create a percentage that would be viable each year for staff. And if we incorporated a yearly COLA based on, the budget, of course, always things are based on budget. We always know that. So over my years in different places, COLAs and merit increases were never guaranteed. They were always stated that it was based on what the budget could allow. But if you establish a percentage on your evaluations, it can help to keep us current in our salaries if we have something established and in place like merit increases and COLAs versus just saying that we're giving everybody $1 across the board. If we label this as a COLA increase, which is or COLA, a cost of living allowance each year, and that is something that's on the books, it can be very helpful, like I said, to keep salaries in place. And when I'm speaking about salaries as well, also what's included in your packet, I joined the Florida Public Human Resources Association, and that gave me access to a lot of information regarding anything that had to do with Florida's statutes, regulations, those type of things. And it also gave me access to Evergreen again. Evergreen is a local governing consulting group that can do compensation or classification and compensation studies. In your packet is an example of the study that they do. And I have experienced with them personally as they did it for us in the county of North Carolina. But they're not the only one. So I do have it in the summary that I'd like to propose to possibly get this done in the future, because not only does it include looking at salaries and or looking at compensation, but it looks at putting everybody in a category based off their job description, how long they've been here, their education. It does a full scope versus just looking at a salary or just calling around and asking what everybody was making under that job title. It also looks at your budget, it looks at the population, it looks at your surrounding area. So it does a full focus. So kind of want to look at that. These are things that I want to incorporate over the years so that we can get a balanced look at salaries. Also too, you'll see in there, this actually came from the Florida Public Human Resources Association. There is a full report on their site that they do every single year. That is the Public Employees Personal Information Exchange. And what that is everybody that they poll. For 2022, they did 85 cities, counties, and municipalities in order to create this salary composition. So what you have in there is just human resources. But they also include city council, they include the second page is when you'll see they do job descriptions, elected officials, management, job salaries, clerical jobs, professional and physical, technical, building inspection, recreation, parks, public works, utilities, public safety. So they incorporate it all, so you can get a full scope of what salaries are for, at least on this report, 85 different areas. So it's very detailed. It even goes into, some people will mention their budget in here as well. And so I utilize this as a supplement to my salary request as well. So I felt like that would give you an idea that I'm not asking for the world. I'm just asking to be brought up to to be in line with internal equity.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I think a merit raise and COLA are things that will be policies changes in this group, because those are not the current policies that we have. We have had them in the past.
Now, the merit is,
We have done merit raises in the past, but we don't have a current job performance evaluation that would really support it, in my opinion.
say that one more
The one
time.
we currently have doesn't support it, in my opinion.
The policy that we have doesn't support it?
The performance evaluation that we have doesn't
Oh,
support it.
okay, gotcha.
The evaluation itself doesn't do a good job of helping you evaluate the employee in order to give them a merit raise,
Correct.
in my opinion. It's not very good, in other words. The evaluation that we have used in the past is horrible.
Gotcha.
It's very generic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not job performance based. It's not job duty specific. That's just my opinion. So we would have to, as you said, you were working on changing all that to come up with ones that were specific to jobs, job duties.
The one that you have, this would fit general
We
staff.
haven't had a chance to read any of that.
Oh, I understand.
It's sitting here, but we haven't read it.
Well, I was just gonna explain that this
Right.
is just general staff. This wouldn't have anything to do with police or fire, because they would have their own, and that's when that would be created.
And see, we've always done it across the board if we did it. If we did it, we did it.
What do you mean?
If we gave merit raises, they were everybody, not just part of the city, not all of it. So, that's something.
No, I'm just saying the descriptions would be different.
You mean the evaluation itself?
Correct.
Okay,
That's when you say more job specific.
right. Oh, yeah, because they got theirs. Theirs are pretty job specific.
Right.
Theirs are better than ours. Ours are very generic. And that's just my opinion. Because, number one, we don't currently have, we haven't used merit raises in years.
Mm-hmm.
We did before, we haven't in years. And we haven't done COLAs in years.
Mhm.
You know, it may behoove us to pick a percentage and go across the board with it. And to say that, I will then add that we've got a union sitting out there. That we honestly shouldn't do any wage increases without
It's
union
not the mic, it's
negotiations.
somebody's cell
From the
phone.
general
They're
employees.
They're too close.
But we don't have
Nothing
union
you can do.
negotiations for them, and we haven't for the last couple of years. We've just done it.
This is not wise.
I don't even know that that's kosher, but that's the way we've always done it.
And it's part of what we'll be discussing in negotiations as well.
The other, getting back to not the policies that you want to, not necessarily the policies, but the way you want to do things that are different than what we are currently doing, but getting back to the budget itself,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta go find your HR budget again now. Yep, right here. I covered it up with my paper. I can honestly tell you that I'm doing pretty good, except for the salary increase.
I got you.
Like, as you said, you've been here since February.
Mm-hmm.
This is July. I can call it August if you want to. But I can't see a $3.57 an hour raise. I just can't. That's just me. I don't know how about anybody else. Please help me. Well, tell me what y'all feel
Okay, well, I'll tell you how.
about all this, not just that.
I'll tell you how I feel here about the merit stuff, whatever that needs to be brought to the council so we can examine that and look at that.
That was just
Different day.
future,
vote
yes,
and
that was
the
just
whole
to tell you what the
nine
future was
on
looking at.
here. You know, as far as the salary increase here, I'm looking at this number here. I do not have a problem with that number because of the previous history that we've had with the previous HR person and whatnot. When their salary was up between $70,000 and $78,000 proposed or whatnot. Which obviously I couldn't go along with it at that time, but the council gave her that kind of money. And with this number right here, even though you've only been here 6 months, as of August 4th or 6th, something like that, I've had discussions with various personnel here in the city, and all I have heard is great things about your job and what you're doing. And personally, I don't have a problem with the increase.
Thank you.
Okay, me personally,
Sure.
I have a problem with the increase. As Ms. Jones said, you really haven't been here that long. I haven't really talked to anybody to find out, what a great job you're doing. And I think when we talk about giving people raises, there should be some sort of standard behind it. Just because there is an increase for another county or other agencies, you know, they're getting paid a certain amount of money. We're not those agencies. When you talk about your education, your experience and all those things, I'm sure that information was taken into account when you were hired.
It wasn't.
It was not?
No, ma'am.
So we hired her without looking at her education? We did look at her education.
No, they did look
Okay.
at it. It just wasn't taken into consideration, in my opinion, compared to the person who was in before me.
Okay.
I surpassed her.
But you accepted the position.
Jerry's
and-
phone, it's too
Jerry's
close to your
phone's too
mic.
close to your mic.
Move
Jerry.
away.
But you accepted the position and the salary as it was. I am not opposed to giving anybody a raise. But I think giving a $7,000 raise in 6 months is a lot.
I understand. I understand exactly where you're coming from. When that number was given to me, it was given to me as that the only thing, that was the only amount, and that is the highest amount that they could go. And I'm finding out that's not so. Not when the last person was offered 54 and I surpassed her.
So it doesn't matter about what that last person had when we're talking about a budget and this budget.
That's what I was talking about, that was,
So what
was
somebody else
budgeted, but it
had
wasn't.
previously is null and void here. I believe what we're talking about is your salary and where you are right now.
Mhm.
And if they say that they looked at your education and experience and all those things, and that was the amount they came up with, and you agreed to that. Not saying to not ever give you a raise, that's not what I'm saying, but I think a $7,000 raise is a bit steep. A $3.57 increase an hour is definitely a bit steep. Typically, I don't know who gets a raise in 6 months after being on the job, and especially for that amount. So for me, an increase of that much would be a no.
Mhm.
But that's just me. And we really, when we're taking this stuff into account, shouldn't be looking back at what somebody previously had. We're trying to balance the budget.
right,
That-
and that's
that-
what
that
was
should be the
budgeted
main
last year
thing.
was 54.
Correct. That was. So
But,
it,
but
so,
you've got
so,
62.
So it was 54 last year.
I mean,
but with
54
the
is
increase,
probably acceptable to me, but 62 is not.
and then with
Okay.
insurance and everything, it's up to 86,000. So that when it comes to merit and cost of living, I could probably agree with you on that. Because giving people raises across the board, you may have some people who are doing outstanding work and some people who are doing mediocre work. And it really should be, when you're giving raises and talking about giving people raises, it really should be fair, equitable, and not just across the board. Because I can come in and barely do a job, but I know that I'm going to get that raise just like everybody else. And how is that fair to somebody who's given above and beyond, of themselves, because they have pride in their job and they want to do better. So for me, when you talk about COLAs and cost of living, I'm behind you 100%. So that's it.
Thank you.
And as I say, I probably would have no problem with $2 an hour, but the 357 just goes over me. I
Gotcha.
mean, it makes me wanna stop right there. It did make me stop right there when I looked at it.
So when the budget goes into effect, you will have been here how long? How long will she have been here? Close to a year?
8 months.
8 months.
Oh,
8
Just
months.
call 8
Goes to
months.
effect in
In
September.
September.
Yeah, so that's just another 2 months, October 1st, actually. October 1st.
Yeah. Madam President?
Who said that? Mr.
Mayor.
City
Yes.
Manager.
City manager.
You are
City manager.
the voice of God coming from above.
Yes, so I understand everybody's opinion, obviously, and just a moment of clarity from me is that, you know, when Crystal came here, you know, he brought a whole new level to the HR department that I think we've never seen before in the city of Williston. There isn't anything that we've asked her to do that she hasn't been able to do. Most of the things that she does is beyond my wildest dreams as far as documentation and covering the city and checking and making sure that we're doing everything correctly. And I believe that she has been responsible for leading us down a correct path over the last 5 months. And although I do agree $62,000 is a little high, I would say that she equally deserves as much of a pay raise in the new budget year as any police officer does, or any sergeant, or anybody else for that matter.
That's where I came up with the $2.
Okay,
That's
I
exactly
would
where I
agree
came up
with
with the
you.
$2.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're talking about the $2 off of my current,
$2 an hour raise is what I'm talking about.
from my current salary? Or
Yes,
from the last year's budget?
from your current salary. Her current salary is $46,592.
So you're,
And I'm proposing, I'm trying to add it up here. What's 2082 twice?
It was
$4,160.
4,000, that's what I'm proposing. Which would bring it to $50,000 is what it amounts to.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Did I hear you say that it was a $3 an hour increase
off of last
357.
year's budget.
off of last year's
Budget
budget,
salary.
not off of your
My
salary,
current.
which is significantly different? Off of your,
Significantly.
off of your salary,
My current salary is
It is-
46.6.
$7.60 an hour more,
I'm sorry, say that again?
what you're asking for.
I based the increase off of last year's budgeted.
Budget,
Mm-hmm.
that's an important distinction.
Well, what I'm looking at has current wages and proposed wages, and there's $3.57 difference.
Yes, and my question is,
If it-
as I look at this, your salary, if this was approved by this council, would be higher than the city clerk's. Is that accurate?
No, actually, hers would actually be higher with the dollar that she would get off of certification.
It's about $1,500 to $1,800 less, and she's been here for years.
so first of
I have a
all,
hard time doing that.
I didn't realize your salary was 46. I was looking at the 54, thinking
No.
that was your salary.
That's what I was saying, that's what was already budgeted. I wouldn't mind being brought up to the 54, what was already budgeted. Versus,
That's the distinction I wanted to make, because it looked like you were talking 54, 46. What are we actually talking? And you
currently I make 46.6.
We're talking, what she's asking for is $15,808 more than she's currently making for a year. If you look
Yes,
at
but I
page
think
11
she
of the
would-
staffing.
I have
Yes.
those figures right here.
Yeah.
But I think she would be more than
I've
happy with
already
the
done it, I
54.
have them right here and I agree with you.
Who's that talking? Is that
Terry,
Terry.
Terry again.
City manager again.
Go ahead. We're having a hard
No,
time
ma'am,
hearing you.
I was just saying that
What was
I would be more than happy with the 54. I can most certainly assure y'all that she's well worth the money that we would need to pay her to keep her. And the amount of work that she's done and the quality of work she's done has not been, there's nothing that's matched that since the city of Williston since I've been here.
Okay, when you look at it like that, it's an $8,000 a year raise, is what that would be, if we went to 54. Yeah. Not the 15,808 that's on the paper, but $8,000 more.
But I'd also like you to take into consideration what I have put in your packet to include what the salaries are, because when you look at salaries, when you looked at Latricia's salary, you called around and asked around what everybody else was making and how long they'd been there. I asked that you do the same.
I don't think we did that with Latricia.
Yes, ma'am, you called around to different places.
We did, but in the end, that's not what we based her raise on. We based it on her performance evaluation
Mhm.
and the percentage of her, and then her three certifications that she's gotten since then, is how hers got as high as it did.
Along with looking at the area.
And we did look at the area.
Mhm.
We did.
I just ask that you do the same thing.
I haven't had time to look at it, number one. And number two, it's a mighty big jump for somebody who's been here for 6 months.
You need to take into consideration what she faced when she walked into these doors here too, from the last HR.
Oh, I do,
And all that she had to clean up. And that was a monumental
It was, and it is.
task within it, and she has proven herself within these last 6 months to do that and to get the job done and better this city here for the future here. And I think if you're talking $4,000 over her existing salary and put her up to less than $50,000, to me personally, that is an absolute insult.
There's a lot of people sitting in this room that would take $4,000.
That's
Yeah,
fine. I'm
and
not,
aren't
I'm
getting
not
it.
talking about anybody else in this room.
And
I'm talking about one person.
I've already agreed to 8,000, Mr. Robinson.
Okay.
I want to know what everybody else says.
I'd rather do the 62, but I'll take the 8,000.
Well, what I'm gonna say is,
Which is 54.
I hear what you're saying, but is that not part of her job? Is that not her job?
What?
All the things that we're talking about,
Of doing what she did?
of being an HR specialist, is that not part of her
An
job?
HR director.
Director,
Thank you.
my apologies.
That's what she was hired to do, yes.
A specialist is a lower pay.
Okay. But is that not part of her job?
It is part of her job here, but the cleanup that she had to do when she got here,
Is that not part of her job?
that is part of her job here.
Okay.
But
So.
if you
so
replace,
for you
if you
to
replace
sit
an
and
ordinary
want to
HR
be
person
so
that was
Y'all
doing
can't
it,
talk at the same time.
something that is part of somebody's job, then now the question is, what did she do that was above and beyond? That's what we need to be hearing. That's what we need to be looking at when we're talking about her salary, not things that, are a part of her job.
we don't
So if
have
you
enough
can
time to
give
do
me
that.
Or give us that, and then as we go to look at your salary, then we can take those, I can take those things into account, because it's only fair. You know what I'm saying? So, as far as I'm concerned.
If she agrees, I agree to the 8.
Mr. Cox?
Is that what you're going with?
Yes, sir.
I can go with that,
With
but I
what?
would like the 8. But I would also like, because last year we talked about coming up with a performance eval for employees.
Yeah, and she's working on that.
Because most places that I've worked at, they have those.
Yeah.
And you get a 1, 2, or 3%.
That's what
But
I-
everybody's done individually. And that's, I'd like to see us do that instead of just straight across the board. Think like what Ms. Hines said is, well, we're just gonna give everybody straight across the board $2. But if somebody's going above and beyond.
So you like the merit better than the COLA? And I will say in the past, the
It would
city's
be
done one or the
outrageous.
other, not both. I will say that too. Usually we choose one or the other. We haven't done both. Because we
That's
didn't have the
gen-
budget to do it.
Very rarely has both been done, but
Right.
they're in place to be utilized,
To choose either one.
depending on what the budget says. But like I say, it's just better than having it straight across the board.
Okay, so the previously the previously budgeted amount is $54,959. Can we all settle on 55?
Yes.
Which is 8,000 and some change. Mr. Bullock, we haven't heard from you. You're mighty quiet down there.
Got mixed opinions.
I know.
I like to think.
I like thinking. That's why we wait for you for last. You're a voice of reason.
I'm good with that April, for that 55.
Okay. Mr. Bloom, if you can make it 55, we'll look at that the next time we go. And don't get me wrong, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And let me tell you, I've gotten about 5 emails, 5 texts right here from people sitting in this room that said, give it to her. So they all love you.
That's good to hear. Thank you all
So
very much.
I'll
I
tell
just
you,
appreciate y'all
I'll
hearing
tell
me
you
out.
that because it means something. So,
Thank you. I
All
just
right.
appreciate y'all hearing me out.
yes ma'am, I'll keep up the good work. All right, so we're moving now to purchasing. And purchasing, is purchasing the same as logistics? No. Is that Jason or is that Danny?
No, that's Danny's side.
Okay.
Danny is logistics.
Say again, sir?
No, this is
Danny
Danny.
Wallace is logistics manager.
Danny is logistics, okay. All right, so, and under the purchasing, the salary that we're seeing is Mr. Wallace, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, well, I'm looking under logistics manager for the city administration.
I do see that. And that's what's so funny is it's called logistics manager in one place and purchasing in another, so. You see that on page 11 of the staffing plan, and page 25 is the departmental expenses under the general fund tab. I don't have any problem with it as I'm looking at it. Does anybody have a problem there? Okay. Hearing none, flipping the page. We finally made it to planning and zoning. Would you like to make a presentation? Want us to just look at
I
it?
know that all your eyes glaze over whenever I speak about planning and zoning, so if you have any questions for me, it's a very simple budget.
It is. I think it is. The professional services is the comp plan that's coming up. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the contractual services, that would be like the building inspector?
No, that's like Walt Richards and engineers that I need for a plan review, or
Walt
Walt
Nichols.
Nichols.
Okay. So your engineering services there. Any questions for Ms. Jones on page 26? If not, we'll move to page 27, which is also Ms. Jones. It is the building permit, it is the permit tech, who is it was Lydia, right?
Mhm.
And that position that's currently vacant.
Mhm.
It is not a new position, but an open position.
That's correct.
Okay, and you see the salary is based the same as last budget. Any questions for her there? It does have the contractual services, that would be the building inspector?
Yes, ma'am.
I was like, good, thank you. I knew we had to be somewhere.
We cut a lot of this budget out. In fact, I cut all my budgets a lot to try to help this budget work this year. I took out any kind of per diems, any kind of training and stuff. They're not going to need that the first year that they start. And this is going to go down quite a bit because of Safe Bill. We won't have as many permits. We had 98 permits last year,
Yes, we did.
including all the other permits, but we had those 98. So.
Okay. So you won't be looking at those 98 as they're built?
They're yeah, but
I
the
know they're half.
permits are all in. Well, there's 8 more because remember they knew that we were going to do impact fees or capacity fees.
Oh, is that why they did them all?
Yes, ma'am.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, they were in the city council meeting that night.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
I should have known that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're putting a check mark on building permits. Unless anybody has a question for Ms. Jones. And now we're to animal control and code enforcement.
Right. So in the future we're probably going to start to move a little bit of these budgets around. Stephen and I have talked about, but for this one we're going to leave it. Animal control and code enforcement. No real change, just a small salary bump for Wayne.
Okay? And if you look on the next page, you'll see the animal shelter itself.
Yeah, so I cut this one a lot when we were in our staff meetings to try and help this budget get made, and I think we're gonna be okay. We're gonna, if we go over this amount, then we will go after grants or I'll be in here begging with a basket to feed the animals, but I think we're gonna be okay with this. We're just not gonna be able to fill the shelter at all times, and we may have to hold our TNR cat program until maybe 10 months or so, instead of starting it full force right away. But that's okay.
And this includes the part of the animal control person, who is Wayne, as well as the kennel tech and the shelter attendant.
Right. One of those is an open position right now. We're not quite ready to hire another person.
Okay, any questions on either one of those?
Yeah, one.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything in here for food for the animals and stuff?
Yeah, that's materials and supplies.
Oh,
That's our.
materials and supplies.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, good.
I'm gonna put it down right here. Gotta feed them. All right, so we put check marks on those two.
Thank you.
Thank you. See how much easier it is to just roll through the book than it is to jump all over the place? All right, we're to the hard part. We're to IT.
Well, it's not so hard. Like Michael work.
It's not so hard.
Can you hear me now?
We'll see how hard it is.
I'm using the mic, Donald.
Awesome.
That's it. That's all we got. As most of you know, we really started this last year with no budget because we never had one, and we built the budget based on what we thought things were going to be, pulled from other departments. This current budget year is the first year we've seen real numbers of what we've really done, and this is pretty much an adjustment to reflect that. We've made some adjustments. Some went up, some went down. Overall, we've lost the capital improvement that we use for ARPA funds for the major purchase of the software. That's went away in this budget, and some of that's been made back up in some areas, salary included. And where we're at now, we're really only at 3.1% above last year's budget. So we're in pretty good shape there.
And that's for the information technology side.
Yes.
Okay.
I just got one question.
Yes, sir.
On telephone, why, when it says your current one is at 45,000, but you're budgeting 30,000, why is the budget down from that?
We had some errors in the accounting. That was some of the internet funding for CalLink fiber was charged off to the telephone GL code. So
it wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah, it just wasn't supposed to be there.
Gotcha.
We've adjusted accordingly.
Okay.
And I think the telephone budget itself is a little bit high, but we're kind of leaving it there because we are continually to grow. We're adding phone lines and phones here and fax lines here and different things like that. So we're just expecting a little bit of increase in cellular and telephone as we grow. Police department's adding laptops. We have 3 now, so that's an additional cell bill for each one of those laptops. I think he has 12 total that we're going to do.
It'll be 13. Yeah, it'll be 12.
12 total that we're going to do, so that's going to add 9 more data cards to the cell plan. So as we grow and we use this stuff, it's always going to grow. It's probably never going to decrease.
Okay, so talk to me about this salary.
Well, I feel like I need a salary boost here. I'll give you a little handout that I gave you guys, explain some of what I do and what I've accomplished and where we're at. I don't know if you've even looked at it. Myself and at least two other department heads got skipped over last year for, I would say, an average $2 raise. Basically everybody else got raises, I didn't. I've used my own personal vehicle for 2.5 years with no cost to the city. I've paid for the gas, I've paid for the truck, I've paid for the insurance, I use my own tools.
Shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I understand, but I still got work to do and I gotta do it. And that was brought up in last year's budget and got pretty much shot down by, when it was brought up.
I think you were supposed to be using one of those little electric things.
Well, when it doesn't run and doesn't move, you can't use it.
Okay.
That's the reason
Well, I think that's what we thought you were using. That's what I thought you were using.
No, I haven't used a city vehicle since I've been here.
Okay.
And that's just part of the needing a little more compensation. I probably average about 20 hours a pay period of work time that I'm not compensated for. Working on evenings, nights, weekends. I understand I'm a salaried employee, but I still need to be compensated for the work that's being accomplished. I did 12 hours over last weekend on Saturday and Sunday to get the network back up here when I discovered an issue. I'm always checking on the network on the weekends and at night. I usually get up first thing in the morning, and that's the first thing I do is check to see what's up, what's not up, so I don't have any surprises. I worked about 12 hours over my vacation on work for the city with no compensation.
I know, I talked to you a couple of times while you were on vacation.
Again, I understand the salaried position, I take the good with the bad, but I think I'm at a point that I need to get a little increase here.
What is your salary?
$28.74 an hour. What is that, 56?
Is that the 53?
53.82, 822.
Just wanted to make sure I was looking at it right.
Yes.
Our problem is, I think we have the same issue that the mayor brought up before, when we're looking at it. We're looking at it as the budgeted versus the proposed. When you look at the current, it's $7 an hour. Do I read that right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. That's
I mean,
right.
that's the way I'm looking at it.
That is correct.
And if you also look at the little handout I gave you, it gave you a breakdown of the IT position that we're adding, and it's pretty much right on par where we calculated it to be. And there's also a breakdown of where the Gainesville area in Florida, the IT basic salary is. And there's also a breakdown in that of the hours I work, compensated hours, non-compensated hours. At time and a half, I'm well above what I'm asking for. And even at straight time for those additional 20 hours of pay period as a calculation, I'm still below that if I just get paid straight time based on that rate.
Well,
So that's why I'm asking it, and that's why the numbers are there.
let me just say, if you're working, you should be getting paid, whether it's overtime or whatever.
Understand.
Because if something happens to you and you're not officially on the clock.
He's salaried.
Well, I'm a salaried employee, so I'm
He's
officially on the
salaried.
clock
So it doesn't matter either
24/7.
way.
That's right, he's always on the clock.
I'm just looking out for you, cause
Well,
I'm just
and,
like.
and likewise,
that's fine.
I'm the only person in the department, so I'm subject to call 24/7. I get called in at night, weekends, holidays, all that stuff. And I don't get on-call pay, I don't get overtime pay, I don't get nothing for it. So I'm just asking for a little compensation of what I have put into this job and what I'm expecting to do.
And how long have you been in this position?
2.5 years,
And how many raises have you gotten in that?
None. 0.
Where's that other paper we had? We had another paper that showed us, but I guess it's gonna show us no increases for 3 years.
Yeah, I know,
That is
Madam,
correct.
Madam President, City Manager again, so just to chime in here, I
Yes,
do know
sir.
for a fact he did not get a raise last year, because, there was no pass sign for him, and Aaron and I had this discussion. I will tell you this, I do agree 100% that a lot of people don't see when Aaron works, when he's in on the weekends, when he's out doing stuff for the city, and a lot of that stuff goes unnoticed. And sometimes in the IT world, unfortunately, the only thing we notice is when things don't work. And unfortunately for us, computers only work as good as the day they come out of their box, and from that point, it's a downhill struggle from there. I would tell you, I think he's, considering the task we have asked him to do, has done a pretty good job in keeping the city up and running.
All I gotta say is you better hire somebody good who can help you do it, because we gotta get it done.
We're hoping we can for what we're offering, but that's what
We
our goal is.
we absolutely do. We absolutely do need to do that. Everybody talks about, how busy he gets. A classic example is yesterday he had to come over here and set me up for this experience for tonight, just out of the blue, in the middle of his day that was unscheduled. And those are the kind of things that we've grown that Aaron does for us. So, and yes, we do need to, and we have probably to some extent failed our part in management as far as providing him with somebody that got the IT experience in this assistant that he needs. You know, we had this discussion last week where, you know, we have Chip, who's, you know, when most of you didn't pick up on this, he's paid out of gas and paid out of IT, and Donald had him out pulling electric meters.
Right.
So he was working for electric, and not even for gas or so everybody's being pulled in so many different directions. We're just running out of staff. So yes, we are definitely going to hire him the right person this time.
I don't know where to go with it. I think $7 is a lot. I'd rather give you a car allowance too. We've got to give you a car allowance.
I have a vehicle now. We've acquired 2 vehicles for IT, one for CalLink, one for IT.
Okay, I did not know that. That's nice to hear.
Yes, we did that.
Well, in this particular case, maybe there could be a compromise to be had on his salary, as opposed to just a full $7.
Okay, so how's everybody else feel?
This is an increase of $14,570 a year.
Yes.
Well, when you look at all the IT stuff here, computer stuff that we have here, excuse me, he not only works here at City Hall, he works over at PD, he works at the airport, and various and other places here within the city here. And unfortunately, for us, or for him, there's no schedule when you're going to have computer problems. And it's not necessarily just with the hardware, it's also with the software, where he could spend hours on the telephone talking to different people to try and correct what the problem is, whatnot. And he may get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, something that needs to be done here, or may be alerted to that fact that he needs to get that stuff done if the city is going to run on a computer system and whatnot, an IT system that we have to date here. And since he has been here 2.5, almost 3 years right now, he has not been compensated for any overtime. He has not received any raises. He has not really complained about that at all. And I think what he is asking for here is more than fair.
Okay, anybody else?
He does stuff for Aaron does stuff for the airport, police, fire. I'm just gonna throw it out there, and I know they're gonna throw stuff this way, but,
I don't think he's allocated
a little bit.
amongst those departments, but yes, he does.
Yeah,
I know he said he's
they,
some of them.
they, all,
Mark is on.
they all contribute, yes.
okay. Good.
Yeah, he's one of those breakout ones, isn't he? One of those 4 breakouts.
When will CalLink be?
We'll talk about that when we get
You're
to
not there
CalLink.
yet.
We'll talk about that when we get to
You're not the
CalLink.
CalLink yet.
Okay.
Mr. Barber, I saw your hand.
Just want to remind council that 2 years ago, when a lot of staff changed over, that council commissioned everyone to go out and do comparative studies, to do one adjustment because we were so far behind. There are 3 people in this city that was not done for. Aaron is one of those people. There was no comparison done. There was no change. On top of that, we've got Edmunds.gov coming in this year. He's going to have a whole nother software program that council put on his shoulders to integrate into all the departments that we have, and that starts here, starting October, and I think Selena's running that, goes through February, working with Edmunds. So the hours are not going to decrease. But I just wanted to remind the council that, you know, that happened last year as well because police and fire didn't get adjusted that first year. So again, they last year did comparables too. Again, Aaron was left out and 2 other people were left out for that as well. So there was something done across the board for every staff member from the lowest paid to the highest paid 2 years ago and last year, and 3 people did not receive any kind of adjustment and any kind of comparable rate when those things were done. And like I said, Aaron was one of those. I just wanted to point that out.
Did they bring us comparables at the time? I don't remember seeing
Yes,
that.
all three positions brought comparables, and then they were told at the times they weren't allowed to present them. And that is
I think it was because he was so new at the time.
well, all three positions presented it, and the manager at that time would not allow the comparisons to be brought before council.
I started thinking, I don't remember seeing it, so that's what I'm saying, I don't remember seeing that. All right, we gotta do something. We're gonna go with it or not go with it?
No matter what, he's due for a bigger raise
Oh, yeah.
than normal with 2.5 years. So in a way, if you take
Right.
$7 and you divide it by the 2.5 years, I mean, technically he's only getting what, $3 raise a year, not even $2.50 raise. So
Yeah.
I'm good with getting you brought up, especially after you've done that. I know you've got me online a couple of times on the computer too. So.
All right, so we're sticking with the $7
$7
an hour?
for 14,000. I mean, I believe he needs a raise. I really do. 14,000. I don't know.
Well,
I'd be more than
No.
willing to give you $7,000. I mean, it's an increase. Because, yeah, I mean, if you haven't gotten a raise in 2 years, then
well, again, when you factor in what I've contributed at no cost to the city for 2.5 years, using my own equipment, my own truck, my own tools, which I still use my own tools, and I'm not gonna expect the city to replace all of that. I have them, there's no need for the city to buy them. I'm just asking what I think is fair compensation at this point after 2.5 years. I also work outside my department with other departments to solve a lot of problems. Acquired some servers from Ocala Police Department, City of Ocala last year to upgrade our servers here, which would have cost us probably ballpark about $40,000. And it cost the city nothing but a couple of hard drives and my time. So we got some increases that saved city money there. The utility department needed a part last week that was gonna cost them $430 a piece. I sourced them out locally and got to make them for me for $50 a piece. So I saved the city $12,000 last week, and that's outside my department. It's not my problem, not my budget, not my worry, but I still do that. Those are the things we all do. We all wear different hats. We all help each other. And I think it's a big contributing factor to what I should be getting compensated for, past and present. So I don't think it's to ask for too much. It seems like a big number, yes, but considering that I haven't had any raise or any compensation for 2.5 years for that extra work and the extra equipment, I think it's fair.
so the question would be if you had gotten raises, would that have equal to $14,000?
Probably close, yes. I would expect it to be close. At least that's what the average raise was that went through in the last 2 years. If you look at that paper I gave you, it broke it down.
Yeah, I haven't had time to read the paper. It was shown up here tonight. I'll tell y'all all that. Don't put stuff on my desk if you want me to read it. I can't.
2 years ago, the average department head got a raise from $2 to $6.
Okay, so if we did 2 times 3, that's 6, not 7.
That was the previous year. That was last year.
Well,
The previous year
it's
before
still
that.
about $2.
The previous year before
You
that,
look at
it
everybody,
went.
you look at police, you look at fire,
it
everybody,
went-
it's still about $2.
It was the same thing. It still went up that high in some cases. And again, you talk about the compensation of using my vehicle, that I did not turn in mileage. I did not get you
You
to
should
pay
have
for
turned
it.
in mileage.
But I didn't.
But you should have.
I still need to, okay, I'll turn in mileage in. I mean, how am
We
I
should
gonna
have given
calculate
you a car
that?
allowance. That's what we do for most
And I
people.
asked for that and was denied by the city manager,
Well,
previous city manager.
we did not know that.
Well,
And like I said, I thought you were still using an electric vehicle.
no.
Because that's what you were using
When it
last
drives
time.
8 miles a day and quits running, you can't work out of that. So that's why it's parked. That's why we got with Danny and we acquired 2 vehicles relatively inexpensively.
That's good.
So we've solved that problem.
That's wonderful.
I don't think it's too much to ask for being compensated, no.
Madam President, I think that one of the things that the city council doesn't get the privilege of seeing is 3 years ago when Mr. Mills was a subcontractor for us. We went and we did those comps and we decided with everything that was happening here, we were gonna be paying him well over $125,000 a year or another consulting firm that would be even more. So we offered him a full-time job with benefits, not me, but the city manager, and we have saved so much money since then, having somebody like that in-house rather than subcontracting them out. And that's not something you guys probably remember, because,
I do know that.
yeah, it was behind
The
the
phone bill alone has gone down.
Yes, ma'am.
The cell phone bill, the phone bill.
$13,000 a year.
Yeah, not just the cell phone bill, but the phone bill. All of it's gone down significantly because he's here. And that was one of the first things he did was revamp all the phone systems.
Well, that alone covers the salary for at least 2 years. And
It's just that it's all at one time.
well, you could have
What if
spent,
everybody walked in here wanting $7 an hour?
you could have spent $12,000 buying these brackets last week.
Yeah, you'd love to have $7 an hour, wouldn't you?
Y'all took my 38,000.
Yeah.
They could have spent $12,000 last week. They didn't have to spend.
All right, so somebody give me some
That
consensus
covers it for
here.
1 year.
Consensus on the 7. For me.
I think it's 2.5 years, I say that that's not too far off, I'm good with it.
Okay, I guess we're leaving it there then. Y'all gonna see how this budget comes out balanced at the end when you see it the second time. I hear you. That's what I said, we're gonna do it. We're gonna see how far off the budget we are when we come back.
Because I don't think we can.
Because we're not
hire
halfway
somebody-
there yet.
I don't think we can hire somebody for the time and stuff.
I still say you can compromise and do 6 instead of 7. That's only $2,000 off of what he's asking for.
But that's 2.5 years that he did not get a raise too.
Again, that's only
And that was
$2,000.
$2 an hour for 3 years, that's $6.
That's $6 and it. you
That's
know,
where I came to.
Another dollar here for 2.5 years. Come
I
on.
conceded.
I mean, I see him at Ace on Saturdays buying
Thank you.
stuff.
All right, I'm trying to figure out where I am now. We've already done the police department, so you can turn that page.
We can go back.
Oh, no.
We can go back.
You better take it for what you got. We've done communications.
Let's take what everybody else.
We didn't do the victims advocate, but it's looking the same.
Hey, just the
Everybody
same.
happy with the victims advocate on page 34?
Yeah.
We've done the fire department, putting a check mark there, we're not backing up. So now we're to streets and parks. Streets and parks on page 37. You can't turn out of general fund yet. Almost. Got a few more pages. There's your payroll adjustments for the first time tonight. That's the first place I've seen it, isn't it?
Yes,
Have I
ma'am.
just missed it some other place?
No, ma'am.
I got a big asterisk next to it because I wasn't sure what it was. All right, so this is where the $25,611, which is what I assume balances their budget, for a certain percentage of their payroll.
Yeah, their total is what you said, 72,000,
Total between all the departments is 72,000.
and from there I allocated it as a percentage of the total salaries for each department.
Okay, I gotta find myself, hold on. We got way too many pages up here, y'all. Where is the streets and parks?
37.
Well, I know, but I'm looking for the salaries. Because I think I made this huge note that said nobody got a raise.
Yes, that's not correct. We are gonna give out raises, but again, we wanted to create a pot of money, to do it based on merit.
Oh, here it is, right here. I did. Why no increases is what I wrote. Because you're planning to do it different.
Correct, so if you take the amount of positions that we have through all the divisions, it's 26 positions, I believe, 26, 27. Basically, we looked at what you guys have done in the past of $1 across the board, and we created a pot, and we want to utilize the performance evaluations that are being created for the budget process over these next 2 months, and integrate that, and that process, if you read over it, has a range of scores, and based on the total amount would be a number, and then those numbers would reflect what kind of percentage, and we would divide that pot amongst those on a meritorious basis.
And until those all get ready for us to review and approve, you're gonna wait and give people raises?
That's correct.
Okay.
We would really prefer on our divisions that we do merit-based raises. We need to reward those that go above and beyond.
I agree.
And we need to understand that there's not a sense of entitlement that just comes because a year has passed.
And what percentage did you put in here?
I'm sorry, as far as what?
Is there a certain percentage you put in?
No, ma'am. We took the amount of money that you guys have done in the past, and we took that, and that was our budget, and we will divide that budget up according to merit.
Okay, so somebody tell me what amount of money that is.
$72,000. That is for streets and parks, for gas, for water, for
all of them.
all of them.
So in the salary adjustments, there is, across the board, there's $72,000.
So how Stephen has them done is, as he stated, he broke them up according to division. So here in streets and parks, you're going to see a small contingency of that. If you add them up in the departments, they're going to come to $72,000. It would be as if you gave $1 across the board. But we don't want to do $1 across the board.
Yes.
We have, last year there was a debate of, if you guys recall, some people we had a job fair, somebody had just come in, had literally been employees for a month, 2 months, and council was upset. Why are we giving raises? They ended up giving 50 cents to people who were under 6 months, $1 to those that were over. So instead of doing those things, we want to look at performance. And we're 100% on board with that concept of, for those that are, getting certifications, for those that are improving themselves, for those that are going out and doing things on behalf of the city, we want to make sure that we keep those employees because those are the ones that are the hardest to retain because they're talented and they're going to go somewhere else. So that's why we put it into a pot.
This is not including utilities, right?
Yes, sir, that includes utilities as well.
Does that include you and Jonathan and everybody else?
No, it doesn't include admin staff. It includes the non-exempt.
Okay, non-exempt.
Yes, sir.
Now, is HR agreeable with this?
HR is creating the program.
Okay.
But it's not created.
I understand
It's
that.
not
It pretty
created.
much is at this
So we
point.
don't know what the actual budget number is, and won't know until what the budget number is, until that's agreed to, and until you do your merit. Is that correct?
No, sir.
There's
The merits,
$25,000 right here in this
the
little department.
That's just for breaking up for the purposes of the budget.
So you're just holding that $72,000 in?
We're going to, the goal is to take the 72, and based on the merit performances, that's how you determine the percentages, because you utilize that amount of money. It's a set money. We're not asking to go over, we're not asking to go under. We're asking to give out $72,000 in raises for the non-exempt hourly employees. And it's basically like if you take a test in high school and it was a really hard test and the highest score was an 83, that's your new 100. So you utilize that 72,000 all the way down, and when you run out of money, then the bottom
See,
performances.
this is a totally different policy than we have now.
No, ma'am, it's actually in the HR manual.
Not something we've done for years.
I agree completely, and that's up to council. You guys can decide that you want to do something across
It doesn't sound
the
like
board.
it's up to us if it's already in the budget.
Well, we have to create a budget for you guys to consider.
I know, that's.
This is also a request that came from the CBA asking to switch from a across the board to a meritorious performance too.
You mean the union we've never seen?
So you saw them last year. We had negotiations.
No.
I was the one that negotiated on your behalf in a special hearing.
Well, you can do that because we told you to do that, but we've not seen them here.
They were at that meeting. Thomas Cross, who represented them, was at that meeting last year. It was a special hearing. It was a shade meeting. You all were here.
Yeah, I remember.
Back then, yeah, and he's not here anymore. Or do you still have, I'm not going to ask if you still have a union, I'm assuming you do.
Yes, ma'am.
But all this probably needs to be in the contract that they need to bring to us.
Which April 1st, they turned in all their requests, and they have done everything on their side that they're supposed to do. They're waiting for admin to go forward with the process.
I'm sorry to say, where is it? April 1st is quite a while ago.
I can't answer that question. I'm just relaying information.
Well, I can chime in and answer that question. There's been a change in the law, and basically they're having to go through now what the Florida State statute says, which is having 60% participation in their union, before it can be recertified. So, what we did was we said, look, we're not gonna wait for that to happen, we're gonna go ahead and meet. We do actually have time scheduled to meet, so requesting it, coming up. I don't know that we'll agree to anything in their contract, to be honest with you.
Right.
I got a question. The 72,000, is that a kind of an average of what
It's an average of $1 an hour per employee.
it's always been or whatever?
Correct.
So I think you wrap your head around this. Let's say you have $72,000. Let's say you have, I don't know, 10 employees. In order to give somebody 2, somebody gets a 0. So if you give somebody a 3, eventually somebody gets a 0. So that's what it really boils down to.
And this is for, okay, I'm gonna plead stupid here. This is just for hourly employees.
Correct.
In the utility departments and all departments. Is that correct?
It's for 6 departments.
It's what?
It's for 6 departments, including streets and parks. Streets and parks is our kind of oddball because it's in the general fund.
Salaried people is not included in this.
No, sir.
Correct. Or are you hourly or salary?
I am an exempt employee that negotiated when I was offered the job an hourly wage.
Okay.
That doesn't answer the question.
It does answer the question. I am paid hourly, but I am an exempt employee.
There's no such thing.
Well, then you'll have to speak to the city manager at the time and the HR department at the time. I'm just answering the question. I can't speak to the...
You're either salaried or you're not. You're either exempt or you're not.
I've answered the question to the best of my ability.
So we probably need to revisit that as well.
Yes, ma'am. That's coming up.
Okay.
So if I might just interject for a second, this is complete except for what he is speaking to as far as allocating a merit increase. So if you'll go to the third to the last page, what I have, this might clear up a little bit for you. What he's talking about, the 72,000. So once you grade someone on this scale,
I don't even know what it looks like. Show me the front. What am I looking for?
it's the general staff performance evaluation.
I think it's under here.
Done.
You're not the only one who gave us stuff.
I don't care.
Exactly. So this is fairly complete. Had some input from several of the staff members who've looked it through. It's very detailed. So just to give you an example, policies and procedures is the first one. There's 13 categories. As you go through these categories, it gives you a reason for scoring each person. And it gives you an explanation for each score versus good, bad, indifferent, superior, non-superior. It actually gives you a full detail of why you gave them that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So that's that part. When you get to the third to the last page, which is the scoring mechanism, this is what we have not put in place at this time. And that is to determine a percentage for each area, or excuse me, for each part where you've scored.
Third to the last, count the front and the back, or not count the front and the back?
Don't count the back, just count the front. Third to the last, and the top of it says scoring level for merit increase.
Got it.
So the only thing that's not completed in this at this time is putting in that percentage for each scoring level.
And the highest level will be 50?
Yes, for 46 and above. So the total score that you can,
74.
thank you.
74.
74 is,
That's an odd number.
well, it's 1 through
6 times
6.
the 13.
Yeah, it's 13 categories, and you can score them 1 through 6.
And what's the correlation with 74? Is there a number based, that's what you're working on, is a number based on 74?
74 is like an A plus.
Yeah, but what would?
You got a number 6 on every category.
That
Oh,
means
great,
you
so
got
what would be
6.
what would be your increase? Is that what you're working on?
Well,
Well,
that's
that's
what
for council to determine.
That's what we're working on, is the percentage part. Is that the only thing that's really not completed on this evaluation form?
Well, and like I said, this is not a budget item at the moment.
No, but this is just speaking to what he's wanting to use the 72 for.
Which we had not heard before we walked in the door tonight, which is one thing I'm not real thrilled about. I'm not thrilled about not knowing about this before we got here tonight.
Not knowing about what?
That you're even, that you got this pot of money that you want to do a merit.
Okay,
Based on a evaluation.
I apologize. I mean, it's in the budget. It's listed as,
I know it is, but it doesn't say what it is, which is why it has this big asterisk next to every place I found it.
yes.
I mean, and what payroll adjustment is what it said. Had no idea what that meant.
Like I said, if the council wishes to do what they've done in the past, we're not opposed to that. The 72,000 equals $1 across the board. You know,
I'd rather do the merit.
and being
I
a
don't
small
know
city
that at all.
and trying to find competitive workers to work in an environment where they do more and they get paid less, that, you know, the best method of moving forward as far as the management's concerned is to do meritorious.
You don't have to convince us of that. I think we all agree with that. But like I said, it's something we weren't expecting when we walked in the door. It's not the time to look at a policy and try to change it to come up with it. We'll have to do that in a different manner.
So the policy does state, that you guys have, which was connected to this, that the primary purpose of an employee evaluation, is to inform employees of the quality of their work and to determine, salary increases. That's the first part. And that, I've not changed this policy. This is what I'm bouncing off of.
You can't change it without us, so.
Right, that,
can't
obviously I
change it.
haven't.
Yeah.
So I not changing it. All I'm doing is creating, or all I have done is create the actual evaluation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, the one we had before was terrible. It was not job specific. This one's not really job specific either. I like it.
It's general staff. And if when you do get a chance to read it, it really encompasses everything that everybody does, from utilities to admin.
Swap it with this. Swap it with some of them.
Okay. Because it's specific to, wow. Each category, it's policies and procedures for number 1, it's quality of work, and it gets into the detail. Like I say, you will just have to take some time to look at it, because it's not so much that it's not I can't be job specific for police or fire, but this can be job specific for admin, utility, parks and recs.
What admin's doing is not anywhere near what the gas guy.
I understand.
I mean, it's not, whoa. It's, what's going on? It's not really job specific. It's still job generic to everybody.
Okay, like I said, if you just take some time to read it, and we'll get back to that, but like I said, that was the only thing I wanted to interject, is that was the purpose of the percentage that will be included on this.
Yeah, because in my past and dealing, UF does 1, 2, and 3% on theirs. You know, my previous management and stuff, employees had one particular type, which is the one that she's talking about now. Supervisors had a total different evaluation, because it was geared more towards their
Management, yeah.
So I understand what she's saying.
Well, so I understand what she's saying too. It's just not something we're currently doing.
Right. But this is why we need to move the city this way.
I agree.
Because, you know.
I mean, I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing this is a budget hearing.
But this is not something that needs to be brought before this council at a budget hearing, at the night of the budget hearing, without giving us this information so that we could digest it before we got in here to the budget hearing.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is, to me, this is a problem.
We've talked 30 minutes about something that's not, it is budget related, but it's not budget related. It's not something we could do at a budget hearing. It's something we're gonna have to approve somewhere else before we get there. So. But yeah, I realize we might could get it done by October 1st,
Maybe.
because I sure wouldn't wanna hold up somebody's raise because it wasn't done.
Well, basically, right now, we could just still approve the 72,000, the budget is still the budget, pretending as though we're giving $1 raise across the board. How they determine to
Yeah, somebody might get
distribute it,
50
we can
cents, somebody might
still,
get $1.50.
we can still talk about that later.
Yeah.
We can still approve basically, we're not approving $1 across the board, we're approving the same amount of money to equal $1 across the board, right?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, can the budget handle the raise?
It's in here.
Karen, you turn me
But
up.
when we get to the end, we hadn't cut out a whole lot.
Right.
And we're gonna find out that we still got a huge amount, unless you're gonna make a gigantic transfer.
No, ma'am, that's, when we started the night, we were 18,000 out. That was for the general fund. The utilities
No, that's
fund.
if you're, yeah, if you wanna do $1.4 million in a transfer,
Correct,
which I do not.
I understand. And then as far as the utilities
Excuse
fund.
me?
No, I understand, I was just saying as it was proposed, it was 18,000. And
It
then
was
as far as.
18,000 out if you transferred $1.4 million.
Yes, ma'am. And then as far as the utilities, we are balanced. What we presented to you tonight was from utilities was a balanced budget.
We're not there yet.
I understand that, I'm just letting you know.
All right, so are we gonna, first of all, are we gonna approve the concept of payroll adjustment being in the budget as a pot of money? That's the first question. Because we've never done that before. That's a totally different line item. It's been added.
Are we gonna have time to do all of that and agree and approve all of this and then come back with the budget before October the 1st?
It doesn't have,
No.
no, it doesn't have.
No, we're gonna have to agree to it and go with it and do that later in order for them to get their raises by October 1st.
Approve what? Of mine?
The 72,000?
You're right.
We're just gonna have to decide to do it or not.
I think we
Yeah,
approved
that-
72,000 as if we're doing it,
So
not
they can
saying that we're doing
move
$1
forward
across
to
the board. Just approving it for the fact to know
Instead of $1.
they're gonna come up with a map to equal it all out.
That is provided if the union approves?
And like I said, it's a totally different concept. It's never been in our budget before. We've got to, in my opinion, we need to agree on that concept first.
I don't understand why we have the concept of just giving $1 across the board.
Well, it can go up or down, depending on the merit. But that's how they pick the dollar amount.
And what if
To
the
put in
merit,
here.
what if the merit says that he's worth $250 an hour?
Then you get 250 and someone who underperformed would get nothing.
Well, I've been personally on job sites before where.
Then how do you know that you're gonna have people that underperforms here that they're gonna get nothing?
By that form that she showed us, what she's proposing.
Correct.
But if all of them if all of them come and they pass the test, so to speak, this one deserves 250.
No, sir, it's based on the highest score, and you take care of the person with the highest, and you work your way down, and when the money runs out, the pot that we're asking for, that's it.
So
Next
you
year,
could have
perform
somebody
higher.
that, you could have somebody that tested high on that and then
If
the
you have
money
a
runs
stellar,
out.
if you have a stellar staff, yes, theoretically that could happen. Absolutely, but in today's workforce, that's not likely.
I'm just not sure about that.
So that's the concept I'm saying. We've got to approve the concept before we agree with the money.
But we have a policy
Well-
that's been in place for merit-based
But
raises.
it doesn't say we're gonna put a lump sum in here.
No, I agree with that, but
That's
I mean,
what
if
I'm
we
saying.
have a policy.
Well, I mean, if council wants to raise it to go above the 72,000, I mean, that's great.
It still doesn't say it has to be a lump sum.
I understand that.
Sitting in a pot.
I was asked, and I was tasked with 8 budgets
All right,
to.
here's my next question.
Yes, ma'am.
If this group from the road department, Streets and Parks, doesn't score the 25,611, are you gonna move part of it to another area?
Yes, ma'am. It's only there for accounting purposes.
That's what I thought.
It's only there for accounting purposes. And this budget is subsidized directly by a transfer from utilities.
I realize that.
So I mean, it's the same pot of money from the same source. As I said, if council wants to say, look, if that pot turns into 74 or 77 based on the performance evaluations, fantastic. we were being very conservative in what we were asking for. If we had gone in and asked for $1.50 or $1.25 per person, it would have been much larger than this sum of money. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. We have a current HR policy. I understand it's not directing specifics.
No.
But we have a current HR policy that states that it's to be done on merit basis. It's an active HR policy.
I don't think it used the word merit.
Yes, it does. It's in the
Does it
salary
say-
increases.
It said salary increases. Did it say merit increases?
By performance evaluation.
I did not hear the word merit when she read it.
It's it actually states by performance evaluation. That's
Okay, that doesn't mean it's necessarily merit.
No, it says merit, but it says it's to be done by performance evaluation. That's specifically what the policy, a 3-page policy, addresses.
She read me a paragraph. I didn't hear the word merit.
So,
I realize the
can I ask
basis
what
is
you
that.
feel the difference between a salary increase and a merit is based on a performance? So this is telling you that a salary increase is based on a performance evaluation.
Mhm.
It's the same thing as saying merit.
Which we haven't done for probably at least 5 years,
Yes, ma'am.
if not 10.
And if council doesn't
And I
want to
realize
do
we
that,
kind of go by the policy.
and if council doesn't want to do that, we're okay. We were asked to get a budget together, and Stephen needed final numbers to figure out how that balances out with the transfer and funds. So we put a pot. It equaled, as I said, similar to what we've done in previous years. And if you guys don't want to do that, we're perfectly fine with that. It's at y'all's will and discretion, and we can go back to a flat sum per person. I will say from the management perspective and the turnover that we experience in these divisions, that is very difficult because you have employees that work their hearts out. And they look and see that the people who were there with very little time and very little effort, who only show up at 7:30 and will be gone 1 second after 4 o'clock, get the same increases every year that they do. And we don't keep those good employees. They go to another agency.
I mean, you make those recommendations to us. We give them what y'all tell us to give them. If you tell us to give them across the board, that's what we do.
And that's why we didn't ask for
I
an
mean,
across
we
the
take
board
your-
this year.
We take your recommendation usually. Yes, sir. I mean, we're gonna leave it sitting here?
It's in the policy that she read. So, in a sense, it's already there. All you gotta do is implement the different level of employee as far as the ones who are working and doing that versus the ones that are not. It's, in my interpretation, it's already in place. We just have to go to it and forget what we did in the past.
Well, we've done that we've done the merit in the past. So question.
So,
Please.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we go by the pot, the 72,000, nobody's gonna get a raise until this is,
We have to
Implemented.
approve that first.
approved
Implemented.
by council with everything, so nobody gets a raise until that is done, right? Or until you do an evaluation once this.
Until we return an evaluation, yes, ma'am. But again,
So what timeframe do
that's
you
the
think-
suggestion.
Mhm.
There's already a policy in place. Theoretically, without any change before council, it is in the handbook that we could take the old performance evaluation and go by that. Now, we don't want to do that because I agree with the council president. It's a horrible, horrible evaluation of paper.
It's also not the way we've done it for the last 10 years. I know Mr. Cox doesn't want to hear me say that, but you can't just pick up something because it was there and start it over.
I
again.
agree completely, which is why in conjunction with recommendations we received, we were building a new program that made more sense, that was more fair, and it was more accurate to the positions that we deal with. But to answer your question directly, I don't view this as asking for a new policy because this is in the handbook.
It's the form.
So
It's the form that needs to be approved.
I'm
Correct.
not
necessarily
asking
the policy.
about a new policy. I'm asking about when you are planning to, how much time do you think
As
it's
soon
gonna
as
take?
council tells us
in
they
order-
like the form and they like the scoring, we would implement the policy and we could have them done before October.
Okay, so is everybody gonna be on the same
Streets and
Higher
parks.
now.
the same time frame as far as getting their evaluation, or are you gonna do it based on when they were hired? How are you gonna plan? Because if you do it
We're
all
going to have the
at once-
direct supervisors of their divisions do the evaluation with the employee. There's also a self-evaluation, and that would be part of it as well. And we take those two documents, we give them over to HR, she reviews them and publishes the results.
But what I'm asking is, are you going to be, go ahead.
Yeah, let's ask
Because
Crystal
I
the
think you
answer
know
to
what I'm
that
asking.
question.
I know what you're asking.
Okay.
In the policy, it states that the evaluation is supposed to be done, completed 2 weeks prior to their annual, their year anniversary date.
Okay.
So there is a timestamp for it. There's also a timestamp for a 6-month evaluation as well when you're under probation.
Well, I can tell you,
So-
we've done it for the past 30 years on October 1st, not on any date of hire.
Okay, so according to policy, we're supposed to do it 2 weeks prior to.
Maybe we need to review the whole policy.
Okay.
And maybe that's why you start everybody getting a raise across the board at the exact same time.
Yes.
Because you've always just done it on a specific date instead of the date of hire, which is when it should be done.
Correct, and that's what I had been looking at as far as, like I say, many policies. I actually have a book of what policies need to be corrected, updated, and re-implemented. As you said, they've not been done. And it's to the behoovement to everyone to get back into these policies and get them implemented. And simply just to get these salaries up where they need to be, but based on performance, and like I say, you throw in the COLA to have that option in case there comes a time that in the budget that you could possibly get both. But it makes it equal and it makes it fair instead of just coming in and saying, everybody gets $1.
And also always saying that
We haven't normally done
that's not the way we've done it, or we haven't done it that way in a number of years is not appropriate either. You have to start somewhere. So, saying that, yeah. So we need to start somewhere. This is somewhere
Yeah, but
that
some
we're
people,
gonna
if you wait to go back to the date of hire, you're gonna have some people go in a whole year for a raise. Chief Rolls,
And I'm not sure if this helps or hurt Donald.
I can't hear you.
Well, Aaron.
Wrong mic.
That one doesn't work.
Get one of them.
I don't know if this helps or hurts the cause, but if I understand what Donald's trying to do, but how many people in the next budget year will you have that's due for an evaluation?
Everybody.
No, because everybody didn't start at the same time.
Well, I know that's the problem.
So-
If you wait till their date of hire, some of them are gonna go a whole year without a raise.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is if you've got 5 people that's due for a evaluation next year.
You mean next month?
When the next budget year, then you budget for those 5 in that budget year, and then they budget for the other ones in the next budget year. So I don't know, I'm just trying to help him out, because
I mean,
see
every-
what
I
he's
understand
trying
what
to
you're
do.
saying because the
Evaluation
budget
every
is
year.
from October to September.
Right.
I get exactly what you're saying. It's not
Right.
a calendar year.
It's
a budget year.
year.
I understand what you're saying
Yeah.
completely. If you start a program, you're gonna have to have a starting point.
Right.
So we're gonna have to do everybody at one time, and
And
then on
then-
their anniversary date,
Right.
then follow that unless the policy's changed.
Okay. Alright.
But, I mean, at some point, if you're gonna start going down the road, you have to start somewhere. I mean, it can't be equitable across the board all the time just because, you started this month and somebody else started that month. So I understand what you're asking. And I
Yeah.
get, moving forward, we would look at October through the next September and only address in the budget what
The ones
those
that are
hires
doing
were.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And then the
Yeah.
following October, from that September, again, the same thing. So
Okay.
I understand completely what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you have to have a starting point.
Yeah.
And that's what we were trying to do initially here. And
Change a policy, give them the 72, and let's move on.
Change what policy?
There's no positive change.
Where it said that
on their
2
anniversary.
weeks on their anniversary, change it to the budget cycle or whatever.
October 1st.
Yeah, by October 1st here, get that done here.
I don't agree. It needs to be on their hire date, not on a
Well, what if they're,
fiscal year.
what if they're August and they don't get a raise till August? That means they won't get one for a whole year.
Usually how it
So,
works.
so.
Yeah, that's usually how it
So
works.
then.
Yeah, that's usually how it works.
Until a year.
Well, no, because you probably got one last August.
So the way you're saying, if you start November, you're not gonna get a raise till October.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's still a year.
Well, that's okay.
Everybody got a raise last year, fiscal year, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you start this year, then it falls where it falls, it just falls.
Well, what if you got somebody due in, say, they get a raise in October the first year and their anniversary's in November?
Then you do it in November.
No,
Then they get 2 raises.
Then that would be two, you would have to give them 2 raises.
But it's,
They're saying do them all, what Dawn said was do them all in October.
Oh, you wanna do them all?
I said you'd have to have a
Initially.
starting point.
And
You'd
then the
have to
next-
have an initial.
Let me finish my sentence.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the next date of hire is when you do it again. And some people would be 2 months, a month, some people would be 6 months. And they would get another one, and then they would all be on the date of hire date. That way, everybody got a raise. It was, and then from then on, it was staggered.
But then you have people getting 8% raises.
the possibility.
Twice.
What are the next two?
Twice.
That's-
Right.
In 3 months, get another 80%.
Yeah.
Roll.
As a municipality, we have always done it across
Again,
the board on October 1st.
again, as far as the budgeting is concerned and the money itself, the conversation with Steven
Yep.
was that it's gonna be a specific amount each year. It's a pool. And whatever council has left over in the budget, it can't be based on percentages every single year, because if we have a year where we have to cut back, or we don't have the
You
revenue,
mean like this year?
sure, then that pot is small or non-existent. You still do the performance evaluations, and you still give them that record, because they have it year to year. Even if these aren't associated with raises, we still want to go to performance evaluations so that we can look at our departments and perform more effectively with our personnel. So, again, I get that it could happen twice, but you have to have a starting point.
I'm okay
Why
with
can't
that.
we just do it annually, just like we do the $1 an hour annually? Why can't we?
Because
still
if
do
you
the
have a hire, let's say this month, and you've set it up for August or September, they've been here a month, and you're giving them possibly a raise if within that short month they've overmet
But
expectations.
they'll probably, well, I mean.
That's why we did them all at the same time before.
But you can make it, you can
But
make it
before
where
he
they.
still got a raise. Last year
to
when
be here
we
a
did
year
this, that guy
minimum.
still got a 50-cent raise.
Correct.
I mean, so he still got something one way or the other. He just, put something in the paperwork that if he's under a 3-month grace period, he's automatic 50%.
Or we could state if you're under
50 cents.
probation.
Sure, you're on a probation period.
Right,
so-
if he's
Yeah.
under
You're not
under
eligible.
probation, then it's automatic
Or
50
under 6
cents
months,
or
you don't do
whatever.
it.
So just
Or a
put-
year, you have to be here a year at least.
As
Under 6
Mr.
months,
Fuller
you
says.
don't.
Mr. Fuller, you got something to add? Yes.
We're arguing,
You're working.
So-
It's working now.
we're arguing about something that many municipalities, and I know all the universities that I've ever been associated with, they have an annual period that they give a raise, and you get them all on the same date, so you wouldn't be recreating anything.
Right.
That's just the way it
We
happens.
just need to change the policy to make it say that.
Right,
Yeah.
if it's a new employee, he's still
I
under his
agree
grace
with you.
period and he.
Okay, so bring us that. We'd rather do it all at one time.
How many people you have to do a position of evaluation on?
Oh, between
At the same time.
between
That makes
26
no sense.
between 26 and 30.
They can handle it.
So can I chime in here?
Yes, sir, please. I wish you would.
So a couple of things here. You know, my only concern is that one, the 72,000 will not be enough budgeted to spread that across the range of employees to give everybody the appropriate raises they should be getting. Secondly, I think electrical department is not in this, correct, Donald?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they're already got set raises, so they're doing it differently. You know, what I would maybe suggest, and this is actually not something new. This is the conversation that we've been having for some time about moving to performance evaluations and maybe even addressing them towards their pay. since I've been at the city, and we just simply have not done it. And I know that the past city managers have talked about it. I would maybe suggest, if possible, maybe a trial run, if that's what we're gonna do here. If we're gonna set aside a certain amount of money to do it, we could do the evaluations to see if the money actually works out the way it should, and then maybe implement it next year with the actual raises, but this year give everybody an appropriate raise to begin with. At least we would have the evaluations done, the math done, and know if we ran out of money or did we have too much money. That's my only concern, is that 72,000 is may not be enough money.
I agree, because I made the comment earlier that there's 25,000 right here in just this one little department.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a third of the budget right there.
So that's for Stevens. I'll let Steven answer that.
But you said the 72 was $1 a raise.
It's just a pot. He has to put it in certain columns, but it's not streets and parks. It's just he has to spread it out for budgeting purposes.
But if 72 still equals everything as a $1 raise for all hourly employees, and that's what we normally do, then I think the number sounds right to me.
That was the total amount we had in last year's budget.
Well, I'll echo what the two chiefs said. If you all decide that it should be more, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, was that the amount we had in last year's budget?
No, because
for raises, what was the amount we had for the utility department?
The last 2 years
For the utility fund.
We're done on comparisons. So year one, 2021 to 22 budget was not $1. It was each one. We brought you comparable cities, and you guys decided where in that range you wanted to be. So that was year one.
But we got to keep up with that.
Yes. Year two, to fight the compression in the minimum wage increase, y'all said if they had been here for 6 months or less, 50 cents. If they had been here for a year or more, that was $1. That is roughly the same amount, very similar, and that includes the benefits as to what we did this year as far as the pot. If that pot should grow, that's wonderful. If the council thinks that that should be a larger amount. If not, then that's what we submitted.
I just hate for it to be $72,000, and when it runs out of money, nobody gets anything.
And if y'all would like to make a budget amendment or something at that time, or
So let me address that piece of it.
Please.
So the way you look at it is you can take the amount of money in the pot per department and divide it by the number of people in that department. And then that'll tell you if it's averaging over 2,080, then it's $1 roughly per person. And it is, just so you know. Even at basically what I did, and it's actually you got so many pages. There's actually a schedule in your book that takes all of these adjustments and backs out the benefits for you.
Right.
So you can see what the pot of money is. It's about $62,000 of the 72 is left over, and then you divide that by the total number of people, it's well over 2,080. So that part of it works. Now the second piece, which is probably more of a concern to you, is, and where I've seen this before, if you're doing these pots, becomes a prorated deal. So everybody gets evaluated, and then you take a look at it, and now you got 72,000, and that's 72. So maybe you might be the highest person, you still might not get $1 if it doesn't work out quite right for you. So there is some issue there, but you're over 2,080 right now on your average, so you could do it. I think my recommendation is between now maybe and the next time you get this is to have the team take their pot, take their people, and bring something to it. Doesn't have to even have names. It says, okay, if we did it this way, here's how it would look. And maybe give you visually a little bit better idea. If not, like Donald says, I can just go in there and put $1 on everybody. That's easy in terms of model. That's the will of the commission. So you do have options to kind of look at this.
I like it, and me personally, I approve doing the 72 and let y'all try to get it on paper, and then we'll see what it looks like, what they're saying. If it don't work out, we can still do the $1 and move forward with it and get it done. And I think we just get the paperwork done up to do a grace period, like we said, if you're a new employee moving forward, and we set a date, and it's once a year that you do the evaluations. I'm good with that.
like to say just one more thing. I don't think this is working well.
You gotta swap again.
I need swapped with you, so it don't work.
Okay. When you're looking at this 72, and you're looking at just throwing that pot out all at one time, you're taking it up each and every year, and you're not sure if it's going to be there. If you stagger it out for a person on their yearly anniversary, then you're not killing that pot. You're stretching it out over a budget period of time, which logically you will have some left to carry over into the next year for the next folks, or for the next round. Taking a pot of money and just throwing it out to everybody at one time is not an evaluation. And you're throwing, 26.
But it's based on an evaluation.
But you're just talking about throwing $1 at everybody.
No.
No, I'm saying do the evaluation.
And it's still based on the evaluation.
I'm saying take the 72 just like Donald requested, and moving forward with the evaluations and see what it looks like when I put it on paper and show how the 72,000 got distributed out, is what I'm saying to do. I like the idea.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
But I was saying to do it one time a year instead of annually.
Yep.
Just like we do the $1 a year every year for the budget. I'd say do the evaluation one time a year and have a grace period for new employees that have only been here less than 3 months or something, to where they only get like a 50-cent raise, and that's just what it is until they've completed at least 1 year or whatever of service.
That's gonna change the entire policy.
And if you will send us that one policy so we can start looking at it.
You have it.
The whole thing?
You have it.
I want the whole thing.
Is it in here?
You have it.
Okay.
Not just the one page, but the whole policy's here.
Well, this is the performance evaluation.
Okay, I see you got 2 pages there.
Policy.
Sorry.
Yes, you have it. You have the whole thing.
It's in this packet you gave us?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on the evaluation, is there a maximum increase that could be given?
Yes, sir. We would want to put a cap on that.
And what would that cap be?
That would be up to council and the city manager and all that to determine based on what you guys see fit.
Well, see, I used to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's based on, that's the way we do the charter people, because that's what Deborah's used to, but, I'm hearing there's at least 6 and 13 questions in each one, or something like that.
It's 13 questions, and you would do 1 score for each question. So you would have, a chart.
And there's 6 sections, or just 12?
There's
13.
only 3 that you're gonna have, because she hasn't broken down. You have between this number, and it's gonna be a percentage between this number, and anything over 46 is gonna be another number. So it's really only 3.
Yeah, there's only 3 scores there's only 3 percentages that you can choose from.
Okay.
So at places that I've worked in other places. So if you got anything 46 and above was 2%. That's the highest that the county ever gave, was 2%. So of your salary.
And the possibility is 74?
I'm sorry?
The highest possibility is 74, is that what you said earlier? 72.
So 46 and above would be, I think we've talked about changing that
I
to
know this is
50.
going to sound terrible, but can you make it 100? Sure. Can you redo it to make it even numbers?
72 is even.
72 is really weird.
But it depends on how many questions you have and what your score is.
I mean, you can do any number, really.
It's
Well,
just,
well,
it's a
like I
score
said,
of 1 through
it's easy to
6,
calculate.
and there's 13 questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how the police departments are set up.
So can I just point out that the base salary, let's say a brand new employee came in at $14.91, we can't be talking about 2%, because someone who makes $14.91 at a 2% increase is 30 cents. So we have to be more realistic in how those percentages work out. But that's the details that I agree with Councilman Bullock.
It has to be redone so that
is
you get at
if
least
we were to
figure
do
out what
a mock one of these without names and say this is where the scores would theoretically could be, and show you guys on paper this is how it would all break out. This is how the pot would break out, and you could see it that way with no names, but maybe just positions or something. And then you guys could decide whether or not you think that's equitable, that's something that you want to move forward on, but we could have that available to you in a rather short amount of time.
That would make me feel better about it. If we'd had that tonight.
That would make me feel better also.
And if we don't like it, we got the dollar in place, we just do the dollar and.
You got it's about $1.37 actually per person.
Okay.
No.
All right. Then I guess we're putting a check on streets and parks, because I don't see anything else in there to talk about, except the overtime went up from 3,000 to 20,000. So,
And that change was made because that actually reflects the overtime that's being done for functions.
I see that.
We have never compensated for special events. 4th of July, Christmas,
Well, now the
the
special
festivals.
event's only 7,000.
No, ma'am. That's for the special event, for like materials, for floats, for things for the event, like the Christmas lights that we put up. So the overtime includes some of the special events.
I started saying that's not what it says right here. I hate to argue with you, but.
Where are you looking? I'm on page 37.
And the overtime says 20,000, and the overtime special event says 7,000.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I get that. But what I'm telling you is if you look at this year of what we're projected to be, it's 18,865, and we're not done with the year yet. So that's why we put the 20,000.
But I thought it's okay, so Streets and Parks is doing the overtime for the special events.
Correct.
Well, does it not all need to be in special events?
Well, if it's tracked that way, but on timesheets it's not always captured that way, and that's not always Infomark's fault. Sometimes we put in and we don't notate exactly what it's for, and then they don't know to put it over into that column. So some of that, yes, in the 20,000 column is special event time. I don't disagree with that, but that's based on how we could track it, the data that was available.
And all I'm doing is saying, look at the amount, it's gone up. I'm not arguing with what is there, but that's my job, is to point out that it's gone up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're looking at recreation athletics on the next page, 38. It appears to be the same. The library.
What is that?
It used to be the summer program. And now it's more like Winter Wonderland. Back to school backpacks. There you go.
Okay.
Because we don't have a recreational program anymore, and we give the money to We Soar for backpacks.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Latricia.
I'm good.
The library, you see that the utilities have gone up, and the insurance has gone up, and the building maintenance realistically has gone up, so they've adjusted it. Under special events, you see other contractual services, you see fireworks. Fireworks actually went down.
Have we voted on that yet? Or?
No, we haven't. This is the first time I've seen it too.
Is that a something? We gotta increase fireworks.
Yeah.
I think we should increase fireworks.
It needs to be at least the same as it was. Yeah. I would think. Yeah. All right. So it needs to be 18,235 at least, or some number y'all come up with. Okay. Non-departmental aid to private organizations. That's the Chamber of Commerce. Transfer to the CRA. That is our portion of the ad valorem. Is that correct? That goes to them?
Correct.
And then you see some contingency sitting there that helps round out the budget. Are you okay with that? All right. The good news is we've already done the airport fund. We've already done the CRA. I'll do CalLink real quick before we do the utility fund. I'm hearing a yes from this end of the thing. So if you'll go to CalLink, one single page, page 66 under the CalLink tab. Here comes another piece of paper.
Here comes another piece of paper.
All right.
It's simple, it's just a picture.
I think the biggest thing that I've already heard from Mr. Cox is the transfer in the utility fund. Transfer in from the utility fund. You wanna ask your question now?
No, mine was
About
just,
how- Hold on.
when it will balance itself.
Yeah.
From customers and stuff like that, VA.
so.
So that it wouldn't need a transfer.
Yeah.
Right.
One of my questions too.
Yeah, I don't like giving them 108,000. I'd rather throw it away.
Check, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, the IT tech is coming out of CalLink budget that we're hiring, so that's a new position. That's part of the deficit. That's half the deficit, give or take. Plus, what's the total benefits and all on that, Stephen?
Uh,
I don't have it in front of me, sorry.
Jeff, I'll do a rough number for you.
It's in the staffing plan.
It's got another 7,000 or 8,000.
Yeah, so roughly
60.
60% of the deficit's just the new employee that we're adding.
okay.
To get this where we need to be, this map you've got now is the current grant we're working on with the lit communities. This is their map, and these the addresses that we gave them of the proposed coverage that we're going to do with the fiber network. That's part of our expansion to expand CalLink so we can get it to everybody. Because we have run into a major issue with the line of sight, being it's wireless, and these 90 and 100 foot pine trees and oak trees just don't work, and we have a lot of those here. They're your neighbor's trees.
Cut my trees down.
So no, we can't cut the trees down. We can't make it taller. It's the issue. So this proposed map would approximately cover 1,800 potential customers. And at let's say $50 a customer, that's a lot of money. So that being said, that's going to take a while. They're proposing to give us the plan hopefully by the end of the calendar year. We should have a plan in our hand to tell us what materials we need, how much fiber, how long, how many, this equipment, that equipment, blah, blah, blah. That then we can go out and seek funding to fund that and get it done. Realistically, we're probably a year from hanging fiber and having something viable in place. I'm working with Mr. Hector Samario. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. He's proposed a couple of things that maybe we can short term do a smaller section of town rather quickly. So we have proposed an area of town from the center of town, downtown, east 4 blocks, south about 7 blocks, plus including the Arbors apartments. That would encompass about 200 potential customers. And at $50 a month, we're looking at about $120,000 a year revenue income, gross, obviously without expenses. So that can probably be done short term because it's such a smaller area. We're just working on the details and maybe trying to find the funding for that too.
So we'd use our own poles.
Yes,
And-
yes, it would be aerial mostly.
And who would hang it?
Probably part of the grant, we may have to contract it to get it done quickly.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, there's no way we can do it ourselves and get it done quick enough. We have enough on our
I
plate
agree.
as it is.
I agree 100%.
So short term, I would expect maybe within 6 months to 8 months, we should be having something in place anyway. Worst case, a year, but either way we go, we're gonna be a year out at best.
Is that $50 your life?
We suspect.
$50, is that for life?
Highly doubtful.
$50 a month
Right.
is $90,000 potential with 1,800 customers. That turns out to $1,080,000 a year in gross if you were to get all 1,800 customers.
Yeah, I doubt that.
$50
But
a
now
month.
that may be that may be as high as 100 meg connection at $50.
He's asking if the $50 will go up.
I'm just talking
in
about for the
price.
customer, if they wanted to switch over to this from CenturyLink, it was $49.99 forever.
Yeah, but well, I don't know that we can do it forever because it's always a fluctuating market of what it's going to cost us. Ultimately, it typically is going to go down as technology progresses. The supply end of it, buying the internet wholesale, it typically will go down.
I mean, you might could say the customers that came on at the $50 rate would stay $50, but the next ones might be $70.
Well, we don't know. I mean, if something happens where the wholesale cost goes up and we have to adjust it,
Oh, there you go.
We did adjust the CalLink prices now for the wireless customers by a couple of bucks because our software vendor that manages our routers, they stopped supporting our routers. They just said, nope, we're not gonna do those anymore.
So keep in mind the grants that we're going after and the studies that we're doing do have limits on what you can raise it to. So they kind of self-control if you go through a grant program because it has to match a description of affordable rural
Right.
internet.
They kind of have some controls in place in there. It's not gonna be sky high, no.
They look at your competitors and what they provide and they go below that.
We're making a concerted effort to keep it as cheap as possible. We're not looking to make a fortune off of it, but we still got to turn a profit. Yes, sir.
Educate me just a little bit here and try to keep it in simple terms. Okay?
Anybody got crayons?
CalLink.
I don't have any crayons.
I'm glad I can help you to be happy.
I like the grape flavored ones myself.
CalLink versus this cable that you're talking about. If this cable comes into play, is CalLink then obsolete?
Well, no, not actually. CalLink is still going to be CalLink. We're just proposing this expansion to move it from being wireless to being fiber optic, wired, so to speak. It's not really a copper wire, but it's fiber that feeds.
So it's going to be CalLink fiber optic?
Yeah, it's still going to be internet provided by the city of Williston, hence the CalLink.
The CalLink.
Yeah, city of Williston Link, not Moo-Cal Link, but that's somebody else's idea.
Your Honor, just think of CalLink as a brand.
Yeah.
It's a brand.
When I
So-
think of CalLink, I think it's a ridiculous name.
I didn't pick it.
I love
I'll
it.
attest to that now. I didn't have anything
I
to do
love
with it.
it.
'Cause-
Well, all I'm trying to understand.
Everybody
CalLink
loves it,
is line
except for
of
Aaron.
sight.
Well,
That's
what
what I'm
currently, the internet we have now that we
Line
provide,
of sight.
we got a very small grant initially.
Yeah, and I tried to get it, and you said, no, you have a tree.
You got way too many trees in the way. So yes, it still would remain CalLink, it still would remain our ISP, our utility that we're selling the customer, it's just the way we deliver it would change.
And they won't know.
If we put it on fiber, we can literally take it to anybody. There won't be a problem with trees in the way.
Will you discontinue the line of sight?
Well, the wireless, we would just repurpose it and probably use it for our own uses internally in the city.
Great question.
And if I may, don't forget, we also put in a $900,000 no match loan, or grant request, I'm sorry, I'm really tired. Grant request for technical assistance to try and get this to happen. And that money is coming constantly, those grants are opening all the time. Aaron's working with Lit Communities weekly to try and get money to get this all started.
It's like they're, and I won't say the federal government, but they're throwing grant money out at broadband like it's going out of style. It's crazy. But that bearing in mind, everybody's got their hand in the pot.
Well, let's don't forget, we can always
It's
go
a technical
to
assistance.
Central Florida.
No.
Can we use that
No.
for our?
We don't-
So Central Florida
we wanna do
has
it now ourselves.
But you know what they told me?
Yeah.
You know what they told me when I talked to him
Those
last?
grants, there's
He
a lot of
told me
money
that
for
if
those
we
radios.
wanted it to, that he would put us a hub
The fiber.
anywhere we wanted to
If
put
we
it.
get fiber,
in
you'll
city
get
limits
fiber too. You'll
and
be
give
the
it to
first
us,
people to
and
get
then we
fiber.
could run it from there.
So
well, they're
I understand that,
complicated.
but what you have to understand about Central Florida is they did grants as well. And so they are obligated to hit all 19,000 of their customers before they can go outside of their area. And they're right now projecting as of last week that they're 3 years out from that goal. So they may speed that up, but we want to move faster than 3 years because we're trying to look at revenue generating opportunities for the city. And everyone we speak to tells us that
That
the
is
fiber.
revenue generating, if you don't give me a free hub.
No, that doesn't generate us any internet.
It does, because then we take it from there, run it out, and charge money for it.
And then they charge you
And
back.
They're gonna pay back. You're still gonna pay them.
And he didn't say that.
You think this is realistic for a year? For fiber?
If it's grant,
If we get the fund, if we have the plan in our hand by the end of the calendar year, which we're expecting that to happen, we expect we should have funding within a year.
Once
and
we
be-
have funding within 1 year after that.
We should be hanging fiber, and we don't have to do it all at once. I mean, once we get a section fired up and going, then that section could actually be coming online.
Okay, are there any questions in the CalLink area for Mr. Mills?
I think that was them.
Okay, and I'm gonna put a check mark on CalLink. And it's 10 minutes to 10, we're taking a 10-minute break before we go to utility fund. because I have had a request, and I agree with that. Oh, the utility fund. We have the utility fund, and that's it. It's pretty big. It's the biggest one. We're taking a 10-minute break until 10 o'clock.
What do we think about it? I'm gonna be mad if
That was fun.
I just got that.
I didn't know
He's watching. Pull out my bag. So the Copenhagen Airport, they go
it's different. It's different than those shoes.
It's not even the last
No, I did think of some of that. I think actually, I'll let you know,
Shoe. It's different from gel. And I've had people go, because it's made by the same company. Yeah. By the same company. The only difference is regular refined a little bit more. You have
Yeah, regular you have a lot less
See, it doesn't bother me.
What do you do when you it all gets around. But when it comes to the actual then there's not stuff. You got about DSL, you have 3.5 mile range. Wherever they do have satellite wherever you're, I can deal with Grizzly too. You got about 3 miles. Grizzly's a little bit worse than Copenhagen. And that's it. The signal. That's just in the meeting, but. Yeah, you're probably not. Neither is anybody else's. Most people in town say, well, I call them Grizzly because they suck. But again, we gotta justify these. You know, so if you don't feel that there, many of them, if we don't go, great. But we're doing the survey. We actually have the lit community to talk about, who's done this mapping and stuff for us. They are building a plan. In other words, they're designing the network. They're saying, okay, you gotta have this much fiber along this many cores, this many connectors.
Here's so much bolt. I didn't break my jack.
And once they get in-hand design done, which we're hoping to have by the end of the year, then it's a fun game.
You can't just say, hey, give me 15 million, I want to put internet. Because they'll have to drive it. Unless you're Otter Creek, because Otter Creek got a damn plan.
Otter Creek got it fast, boy.
Dude, they had no plan.
Otter Creek on what?
Yeah, I know.
I went down and asked Russell, I said, how did you get this plan with no plan? He said, we don't know what we're gonna do with it.
They offered it to her. They did not. No, they didn't basically submit it, and they told them to submit something because they needed to get to smaller.
I'm gonna tell you what they did. The same is software. Because
I remember that. I guarantee you, they threw a dart and hit on the tree. Yep, that's small. Let's go back here.
They wanted to do small and it's down US 19 for cheap.
Correct.
So they wanted to track down the main highway first. Then from there, they could take 24 to Cedar Key and the Bronx.
Well, again, what we're proposing is in this area right here, because we own the poles on the street.
We get that.
So we don't have to pay anything to the tax on Central Florida's poles. Central Florida doesn't have poles in this area.
Right.
So not only if they came here, they have to pay the franchise fee.
When we asked him about a franchise,
That's what
he
they're
started
going
tax,
to
he
do,
said, and then I said, well, we want our own utility, we wanna be able to.
All he want to do is sell you wholesale. He can do that. But we already have a hub. We already have wholesale fiber. We have that now. We don't need them.
Well, then why are we not picking it up and selling it?
We are, but we got to wire it.
Well, we should
Okay.
start while we have.
I need $15 million to do this
Start
network.
where you don't have any.
Yes, this is what this is not cheap. This is not cheap. This is
The problem is I'll be too tired to get one. Crawl straight in the bed like that when I
No,
get
it's
there.
not. You're right. Inch by inch.
Dive right in.
Even these 98 homes we're doing.
That's doing pretty good. How about that? Trying.
We're estimating this to be
Just seven, going on that. Yep. Well, actually, you're tired.
That's good.
But again, we got to
I
You just want to put internet on playing all the kids. You know what I'm gonna tell you? I can work, yeah, like the survey is a justification that we need.
Everything will be
We need more. We need about 300. They want us to have about 350 minimum.
Yeah.
So we need to get them all there, get them all on there. And don't do it more than once, because they're tracking IPs and all that junk.
But I
Rest of
think
the year.
one for each account, right? Because they're 75 different surveys, one for each
And
account.
all of the curriculum.
No, it's based on your internet.
Nope. Ashley got the idea from me. But now I'm doing leadership development.
And then once you get
So Anthony, in fact, Anthony talked with me a lot before he ever got started. Anthony's doing A. But the same principle applies. As long as whatever your specialty is, you can do her own. I mean, you can develop.
But yeah,
I didn't bring it program because it was so young.
We go,
I go
east 4 blocks, to 4th Street, south of
Mother
Mother,
was getting really.
all those houses.
So you gotta make sure it is all the way down to turn this on 17.
And that's, just that addition is.
It's a, somebody approached me a while back.
I seen you not too long ago. I was thinking, who is this? Oh, I'm just a fool.
Yep, yep.
Oh.
Well, Don't like it a bit.
Just down south of us.
This done got cold in this room, and I ain't bring my jacket this time.
1 minute warning.
1 minute warning. No, Albert, it's too late. No.
Come in here and do it.
It's on next time.
We'll make it colder, don't worry.
We got those we'll have Keith O'Stevens so make it colder.
I bet you will change it.
Yeah.
She's talking about. Everybody I talk to said, always playing, you playing stuff ahead. He said,
But to answer the question.
They turn
make the rest of the Wednesday morning I wake up.
Somebody does something.
So we now I wake up early on Sunday.
They're trying to keep y'all from going to sleep.
Yeah, that's working.
That's what they told me.
If I have you a good blanket wrap.
I always related around
I ain't worried about that.
Well, turn on heat.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's hot back here. I always remember to go.
It's hot back here.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At 5:30 warm here. It must be all just how I prepare.
Some people got,
It's the hot air
in the heart, you know, they
cold. It's the hot air.
cold hearted, that's why they cold hearted.
Yeah, I guess in order to be a politician, you gotta be
cold hearted. Cold hearted.
Yeah. Whether you want to admit it or
I
not.
wouldn't want to hear that you're not.
I have to push Hill in the hole until 12:15 a.m. Yeah, that one says Hill in the hole.
The 1 minute warning is up.
That was 2 minutes ago.
Chris's fault. She's always holding everything up.
You got a quorum of council.
I'll take some Buffalo Trace.
Now come on, we're getting ready to go again.
Good bottle of Buffalo Trace.
I want to do that. Did he go this morning? You always waiting on HR.
I'm on work for a company called We're not here.
They do if he says.
We're only from the south end of locality.
So, yeah, but you see,
All
I gotta figure out.
This full, you okay?
I'm trying.
I mainly do roll off, don't see the contract. The contractors just kind of email me, text me over their next job is villages.
Okay, so I know where Mr. Cox is.
Ms. Delmer, can we limit this to no comments?
Yeah, right.
That would be nice.
Cheap.
Been gone a long time.
Just pass the rest and we'll go home.
Yeah, right? I doubt that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He's still here because the stuff's here.
All the ones of us who's been, can we lose?
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, we had to listen to y'all, you listened to us.
Yeah, y'all got to go first.
That's right.
Aaron, just think about that, you open that computer and
You know, it's funny because when my email pops in, it says, "You've got mail."
Yeah.
It's the old AOL.
And you know what it is.
Okay, we're calling this meeting back to order. This is the first budget hearing of the 2023-24 year. It is 10 p.m. and we are down to the utility fund. However, when we got to talking during the break, when I was talking with Stephen, we realized that we need to do, before anybody leaves here, we need to do the millage. So we're going to skip to the agenda on item 6, which is the millage rate by Payne, and we're going to ask Stephen to give us a brief overview. I've already done that. But just here, we could either have the slide back or tell us what page to turn to in our book. I know it's under the budget summary, maybe?
It's,
No, it's in the budget presentation. So his PowerPoint slides, if you can go back there. We need to agree on what to print on the trim notice.
Page 11 on the presentation.
Thank you so much.
or if you want, page 14 of the budget book. 14 and 15. So just as a reminder here, so as we talked about earlier, you have to come up to a consensus on the millage rate that's going to go into trim. This is your maximum millage rate. You can bring it down if you want at a later time. You will not be able to bring it up after you make this decision. Your current budget is established with a 6.75%. That has been the rate since 2021 and 22. Before that, it was 6.50, and then 6.25.
Page 11 on the presentation.
It's page 14 and 15 of the actual budget.
So yeah, so that particular tab, that slide there, shows you some other options if you wanted to set it at a little bit higher and then bring it down later. That's showing you 7 mils and 7.25. I didn't calculate anything beyond that, but I certainly can run some numbers if you were interested in that. But that's kind of where we're at. And again, 6.75 gets you an additional 106,000 that is already in your current budget. If you were to lower it, then we would obviously have to figure out some additional money. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Entertain a discussion or motion.
I'd say leave it at 6.75.
Just since I'm sitting in the chair.
Yes, sir.
This is a workshop, so
we can't vote.
We can't vote.
Okay, so we're giving consensus.
Yes.
Okay. So if you withdraw your motion and your second.
Okay.
And so we have consensus
That's my
at
consensus.
we have consensus at 6.75.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I see that's a question, not a yes. I vote yes.
But didn't you say if you leave it at 6.75, then it does the rollback to 6 point?
No, I was telling you what the rollback is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's
That's
part of
like-
this.
that's not right.
You have to let everyone know what the rollback is. You'll hear that again during the public hearings as well.
Okay.
If we wanted it to stay the same amount and collect the same amount, we'd have to roll it back from 6.75. It'd do 6.1194. Okay, so yes, we have consensus to ask Stephen to please submit that on our behalf for the trim notice. I'm seeing all shaking heads. All right, so we're moving back to the utility fund. And we are going to get through this tonight.
So they didn't raise it up at all.
So that can we say we've looked at the whole thing. All right, so we can go past page 50 and 51. Actually 52 is the administration of the utility fund. See the revenue sources at the top, the expenses a little farther down. Ma'am? 52. Am I missing the salaries? Where am I seeing the wages?
For administrative, there is no.
I started saying I don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, not for that department.
Okay.
Wait, page 9 here.
All right, so no wages there. I mean, it lists the amounts to be transferred for the particular people. It lists the transfer itself from for the shared cost. See the capital outlay. So this is pretty much just a summary of administration, right?
Yes, just administration.
Just a summary. So turn to the next page, you'll get to the customer service, and that's why Selena is still here. And this awesome hour. This is Selena's portion and her lovely ladies. On that section. Of course, I'm sitting on the utility area, not the other one. Customer service, billing, and accounts payable. The note I wrote here. Let me see, what did I do? The note I wrote here is that there are no wage increases.
So we're kind of following along suit with doing the other payroll adjustments and doing the merit increases as well.
So there's 16,000, I guess it doesn't really matter, but there's 16,732 in their pot. But as we've been told, it can be transferred from one area to the other if needed. Right.
No, it is actually in addition to the 72.
This is in addition to the 72 because it's a utility fund.
Well, because it's outside of Donald's departments that he's looking at, so.
Okay, so this 16,732 does not move. That's,
It would not move.
that's what they would have to choose from.
That would, yes.
Okay. And there are 4 people in that department.
Correct.
So there you go. Okay.
And then obviously postage and billing went up as well, because that's just gonna go up.
Yep.
And that is printing and mailing out our utility bills.
Right. And I see you've added some for training in schools and seminars.
I have, because, you know, I have a whole new department, so with accounts payable and stuff like that, we're just looking to get better.
Terrific. Okay, any questions regarding customer service, billing, and accounts payable?
Did I hear that 16,732 is what the raises is going to be? That's the pot for 4 people?
Including their supervisor, who is Selena.
Selena and 3 employees.
Is that that's based on typically what you did last year?
What was it last year? I mean, was that the same?
Well, ours was very different last year, because we brought in a whole new department.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
Yeah.
Your accounts payable specialist was brand new last year.
Right. But typically, yes, that they have done $1 for everybody.
Like $4,000.
Yeah, and I'm looking
She's
for
up to $2.
certifications as well, so that's why there might be a little bit of padding just for the certifications.
That's terrific. Okay. All right, if I don't hear any further questions, we're going to move to the electric department, which is page 55. I assume, Donald, you're handling that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got anything you want to say before we do?
Yes, ma'am. So as electric was discussed all throughout the last 2 years, we've continually mentioned that it's going to come to a point where we are going to need to expand how many linemen we have. Currently, Michael Miller is our only A lineman. He's the only one that's really certified to make the final terminations and connections and all that good stuff. The only one that's able to put up line. Of course, we all know what happened with the airport project while we were still trying to run a city and how complicated that 3-year process was having one lineman. Only way we were able to get across the finish line was because of how hard that department worked, and hiring the city of Ocala and on other occasions the city of Gainesville for other projects to push us over the line. And so if you were to look at what we did in hiring a lot of these other agencies and you were to compare that, we more than doubled what we would have paid a new lineman. Then as we talk about the rate discussions that went through in the last couple of months, you know, that was designated and stated that some of the issues of that raise increase was specifically to hire in an A lineman, to have another certified A lineman that can assist in training our Bs, our Cs, our apprentices. And then of course when you add a high line position of that nature, it's required that they have to have a groundman. That's just basic safety in that regard. So the 2 big increases that you'll see in that department are those 2 positions. Now, in bringing those 2 positions in and beginning the licensing program, we have our lineman B has been through multiple classes and is working toward a certification. We have an apprentice that is moving up to lineman C who's beginning classes or continuing classes, and we have a lineman apprentice which is beginning classes. And so making those adjustments all the way through, we had to reorganize that pay structure so that it was equitable, so that we don't have a B getting paid more than an A, or a supervisor who's on salary getting paid less than an hourly lineman, which isn't equitable to someone who's taken quite a hit for many years. So that's what we did. If you look at the staffing plan, and you go to page 9, and again you look at the electric supervisor, that 4215 is at a salaried position. The lineman A would be a lineman A at a hourly position. Lineman B, again, we made an adjustment based on comparables. Lineman C, we brought them up to, because that person is currently a lineman apprentice, so they will be switching positions. And then our lineman apprentice being brought up because they have switched from a groundman to a lineman apprentice. And then we made fair adjustments all the way down to our tree trimmers and to our groundman that's been here for 5.5 years, and our groundman open position at the starting pay. So that's what we achieved there to present to you in the electric department as far as the salary. There are other changes that were made throughout the line items. So if you go back to your page 55 and you go through there, you'll see that the training schools and seminars increased, and that's going to continue to increase year to year as more of our people internally get trained. For those of you that know, many years ago we had other linemen that went through programs, and when the training wasn't necessarily compensated and done in the right manner, they were basically poached. So we never ever received any kind of benefit from any of those folks. So we're making sure that we don't repeat those mistakes, and making sure that we have a good program that can bring people up as they get certified and as they become more equipped. I mean, those programs take 4 to 6 years to complete. It's not a short-term commitment. You'll notice materials and supplies went up. And you'll notice that this year that says $219,000. I just want to preface this, that the way things are coded, when we purchase materials for developers and then they pay us back, the payback goes back and is coded in the general fund. We did not spend $219,000 in materials this year for the city. A lot of that money, the majority of it came back. And of course we know the main development that we're talking about is Country Lane Estates. So I just want to caveat that, because when we do our little recap of our budget here this coming December, I don't want to see a red line and everybody freak out and go, we didn't know how to handle our budget. So I just wanted to point that out. But we are increasing that because we do have a lot more jobs that we're taking on, and that compensates for a lot of the development that's going to continue to foment through town. We have 2 or 3 developments that are right on the horizon that are knocking. And then, of course, there's all your commercial properties. We're talking about many businesses here along the 27 strip. So the next line item that you'll see, obviously, is fuel. Right now, we're on par to use just over $30,000 in fuel. And again, that's fuel prices that are gone up, and we wanted to be more realistic. That was budgeted previously at only $10,000. Another item to look at, of course, is our contingency, which was dropped a little bit. But what that contingency for is for things that are unforeseen. So emergencies. If you remember some of the reclosure money this last year, a little bit of it went out of that. There were other major repairs, outages, things of that nature that were coded into that. So we maintain that, even though we did do a slight decrease. As Stephen mentioned, one of the things we're doing through all of utilities is we are trying to put in a sinking fund, and we are trying to build back some of those reserves to make that picture as far as the 90 days in the audit look a little bit more healthy. And finally, I want to remind you all that one of the exciting things with the ordinance change this past couple of months was the rate stabilization fund. And let's say you go a year or two and you build that fund, or 3 years and you build that fund and you have a healthy fund, and no terrible crises happen on the world scene, and fuel prices don't skyrocket as they did the previous year. The other lawful and legal area that stabilization can be used for is funding large capital needs. So improvements to the system, pole replacement, large ticket items like a line truck or a derrick truck that may come down the road someday. That is also another spot within the electric department that can be utilized only for electric and has its own little built-in reserve as well. So we're trying to think a little bit further into the capital projects. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have none. I know you can't believe that, but I don't.
You went through most of them.
Yeah, you hit mine.
Did you answer the DOT one, the 25,000? I didn't hear that one.
No, sir, I didn't go over that. So DOT is the upgrades that we will have to do from the old style bulbs to the LED along 27. It's that DOT agreement that we have, that one that y'all just saw, I think, a meeting or two ago.
Yep.
And remember I talked to you about we're going to try and renegotiate this year to get them to pay for the increase in cost. So we're hoping that that line will again be a check that we receive to be compensated for the amount that's spent, but we still wanted to budget for it because it's specific to that project and it wouldn't be geared toward general materials and supplies.
We did approve that agreement. You may not have been here that time.
Yeah, I know, I remember that one. And then that 36,692 is for how many? That raise?
11. If I don't count the supervisor, that would be 10.
I'm sorry?
10 people for the 36,692.
Yes, ma'am. Now that's not the new positions. If you add the new positions, that's much, much higher.
Oh, the new lineman's not there? It says lineman A.
Right, but that's not 36,000. That's an increase of much more than that.
I mean, your pot for raises is what he's saying.
The other payroll adjustments. Again, none of that goes to electric. That's just how Stephen decided to break it up between the departments. That's part of the, isn't it?
No, let me.
Then it doesn't need to be electric.
That is not part of the 72.
Ooh.
That is a built-in just for the electric and for the lineman A.
Oh, yes.
In case
I'm sorry.
you could, the concern was that the rate that we're putting in for the lineman A would be not enough.
That was the overtime. That's what it was. Particularly, it was the overtime. If you notice the lineman A is, I'm sorry, if you go back to your staffing plan, now I'm remembering, I apologize. If you go back to your staffing plan and you look at it, and you look at the new lineman A, and you look at the hours,
yep.
You'll see that it's 2,080 hours. If you look down at the lineman B, the lineman C, the lineman apprentice, and so on, you'll notice those three have the built-in. We wanted to make sure that the overtime budgets were realistic, so we went back and did an analysis of that, and we put those into the billable hours so that the budget was actually accurate. So we didn't know how that's going to work out with the lineman A. Obviously, they're an hourly employee, so there's a built-in budget for the overtime and the extra incurred cost for lineman A, because you have to bring in a lineman A based on experience, and unless they're a supervisory capacity, you have to pay them hourly to be competitive. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a built-in ledger against that.
Okay, so it's not for the raises.
No, the raises on electric were already adjusted.
Okay. I see that. All right, any other questions? Put my check mark. Yes, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Barber, this is kind of on the line of the budget, but how are we doing about stockpiling our poles and transformers?
And Terry can speak up if he wishes to, but we were tasked a while ago with compiling a list. We have compiled that list of critical transformers and critical infrastructure. Council wanted us to bring that back to them in a particular amount, and where we we talk about reserves, and things of that nature, if we wanted to get ahead of that supply chain, that's where that would have to come from. If you notice down here, we had a transformer supply buy line that was put in. We had 50,000 in it. To balance the budget, we had to remove it. It's a capital item. Again, all of utilities. There is really no real capital outlay for any infrastructure at all in any of them. And so we tried to put some in, and we couldn't balance the budget with them. So go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Donald. So, Mr. Cox, the list that we were going to bring back to you, the total cost was $233,000, so I didn't bring it back.
Okay.
Smart move.
And that wasn't that many transformers.
No, that's like Winn-Dixie. That's like Homestead Park. That's like Walgreens. That's like Hitchcock's. Those were big one-ticket items. What do we do? And what he just told you, I mean, we were talking, if Jason were, he could tell you exactly, but I think it was it 10 or 12 at the most?
No, it was 8.
8 transformers.
I didn't say 8.
8 transformers, 230-some thousand.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know how to build that into a budget other than, as I said, we had 50,000 under transformer supply, and in order to balance our budget, we took it out when the staff met.
Okay.
I think one day down the road we'll be able to do that, but it's going to take us a while.
Yeah. We'll have to get our increases in there.
Yes, ma'am.
For capital. Okay, are we ready to back to gas service? I think we are. All right, that's page 57. And on your staffing plan, it's page 9. All right.
So, gas department, not a lot of changes.
Highlights only, please.
Yes, ma'am. The one main change is the part-time that Aaron already talked about, and that was moving that over to full-time to gas compliance. That's the big change in gas.
Okay. So your part-time became full-time.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And a little bit more in training.
Yes, ma'am.
And your compliance.
Are you asking about what
The compliance went up from last year, but it's down from what we actually spent this year.
Correct. That's development.
Yes. Questions on gas? Okay, I'll put my check mark on it. Sewer services. Page 59, and your staffing is all still on page 9.
Yes, ma'am. So sewer, broken into 2 budgets. Of course, one is collections, that's your lift stations and some of your outer infrastructure. That one's first. The only major change to this budget overall is a new position, and that is that we're adding a lift station technician. We currently have one that was added a few years ago. This has significantly decreased the cost of maintaining our 21 lift stations. That program's been very successful. We've cut down prices on pump replacements and things ragging up and backups throughout town. Because of confined space laws and other things, every day the lift station tech has to borrow from another department for a period of 2 to 3 hours. Another staff member that's free because they cannot enter confined spaces and go into some of these places without someone above ground watching them. And so we just need to add that position. We need to have that duplicity within that so that they can work together, pull pumps together, go to outages together, and go into these confined spaces together. And so that is why we added that position this year.
Safety. Okay. Any specific questions anybody has? I see you have your payroll adjustments again for the pot of dollars.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're gonna. Well, let me see here.
Sewer treatments next, if you don't have any more.
Yep. Sewer treatment. It doesn't say that, but that's what it is.
Page 60.
Yes, sir.
Sewer treatment, the changes there are boiled down to the fact that right now we currently have 2 wastewater operator positions that are open, meaning that we do not have employed right now with the city of Williston wastewater operators. So the big increase in cost is your contractual services. In order to maintain our plant and be in compliance, pass DEP, sampling and all that good stuff, we have to pay Twofold, who is our water contractor and is within our water budget, and we have to pay them now to have an operator, the minimum 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, to come in, do sampling, testing, and maintenancing of the plant with a licensed operator. We do not know when those 2 positions will be filled, but we know we're going to eventually save money here. There does have to be an overlap, but we're not going to perpetually have both the contracted services and the 2 positions. Right now, nothing's being used in the budget for those 2 positions because there's no one there. But we also can't lose those positions because we need to fill them. And over time, it will be much more expensive to have the contracted services than it would be to have our own operators. So that is the increase basically in sewer treatment. You can go down, you can see that materials and supplies increased. The reason why the increase for that is, if you remember, we've had 2 phases of grant, 1.9 and 3.76. Those grants built new equipment, and there is a maintenance to maintaining those equipment. And so we calculated the cost of the new equipment and what it will cost to run it, the chemicals and things and so forth. So that's pretty much the extra in materials and supplies.
Okay, any questions on sewer treatment?
The sewer analyst, you've got it at 14,000, but looks like we normally pay around 3,000 or 4,000. Is there just something that could go wrong right there? Or?
So that's stepping up as we get closer to 2026. Our sampling requirements are required to be more frequently. So right now, or in the past, we were every 2 weeks. Now we're at every week of sampling, and that's going to increase as the plant flow increases. And as you guys have been talked to with Wright Pierce, Bart, and Walt Nickel, and Dennis Davis, as the new houses are coming online and the flow increases and we get closer to a certain level, obviously that changes, chemicals, it changes process, things of that nature. So a lot of that has to do with the growth.
Okay. Great question.
Are all of these individual departments you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. They're entirely separate budgets.
Each one stands alone, and we're trying to make them all profitable.
Yes, ma'am.
And pay for themselves.
So each one has a deputy director?
No, ma'am. That's split out salary. So John's salary, administrative assistant, my salary, others are split out because we are over all of these 7, 8 departments, and ours is broken out piece by piece between a lot of these departments.
So you guys are getting 18,000 per department?
I couldn't tell you that to be. I don't know how Stephen has it broken out.
That's what's in the budget at the moment.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm looking at this correctly.
Right.
So out of 7 departments, how many of these is it distributed across? All 7?
That's not a question I can answer. I don't make that distribution.
So if you notice where it says utilities, public works director, 25%. So that 25% is what's allocated to this particular department. So that means there's 3 other departments that the public works director, meter reader, there's a couple meter readers there, administrative assistant, deputy director, purchasing and inventory. That's what that percentage is. It says
Here's the percentage that's in this particular department. If you go back to the other one, you'll see other percentages.
So for 4 departments to make it 100%, is that how you're looking at it?
Yes, ma'am.
So what's your base salary?
Are you referring to mine?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to move to the staffing plan? I don't know if you were done with the sewer.
We hadn't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay, never mind then. I'm sorry.
No, I can go wherever y'all like.
I was just seeing the different looked like the same thing in all the, so I was just trying to clarify.
It is, but it's the current budget asking. Mhm. But we'll get there in a minute. Okay. Solid waste?
That's GFL.
I know. What I wanted to know was why is there no transfer from GFL?
Because we don't make any money with GFL, we lose money.
They should pay us something for being here. Who do I need to tell that to?
The contract?
Do they not pay a franchise fee?
They do pay a franchise
Probably the people
fee.
that
Thank you.
did the contract.
Well, they,
So-
every one we've ever had before paid a franchise fee so much per month. I mean, so much per year, excuse me.
Yeah, so Stephen, do you know about the GFL
I mean, I see income up
franchise
there.
fee?
Well, okay, so, the first piece of that is it would be in the general fund. That's where the
Okay.
fees go. Second of all, it's a very small amount compared to the past.
Yes.
We've talked about internally, taking another look at that contract, because it is not nearly as much as
No, we used to actually make some money off of it.
We lose money when it's all said and done.
It's administrative.
Okay, so the amount that comes back to, this income revenue amount, is that what we collect on our billing?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we give it to them, which is what the transfer is.
The professional services is
Is our transfer from us to them for the amount that we collected.
yes, paying them.
But in the general fund is an amount that they would pay us?
There used to be a
Used to.
significant amount.
About $2,000.
That's all it is now, about $2,000 for the whole year.
But if you consider how much customer service and others deal with that, we lose all that money.
Yeah,
That's
I have no
piece
doubt.
where the losses.
Yeah.
The initial contract intended for them to be able to cover all that.
Right. Yeah, it says that they will cover all that. Yeah.
Utilities is working on a proposal for y'all down the road, but I'm glad that you brought that up.
Wow.
Just remember.
I was looking for the income, for the amount of money that we receive from them, and that's my big note here. No transfer from GFL. It's to GFL.
No, the way the original contract was written, it was technically supposed to be a complete just pass through with them handling the complaints, the setup, the account, the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, the citizens don't do that. They come into the office and complain, and we have to answer their complaint.
Yeah, we have to be the intermediary for them.
Yep.
Another reason why we should.
Now, I will tell you this, there are some recourses that we have in the contract. Because of services, we are now applying back to GFL, but it's a very small amount of money that we're getting in return.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any
Yeah.
questions about solid waste collection? Other than we need some money to help at least pay our part. Because right now it's losing $587 next year.
This year, you'll see hard proposals from us regarding some solutions as the contract comes to renegotiation.
Perfect. Okay, page 62 is water services.
Yes, ma'am. So water services, there's some change in some bylines. Some minimal change in travel budget. These are conferences that we need to go to in order to maintain our licensing. Before, for many years, there was like one water license in the town, and now there's multiples. And so they have to go to continuing education every year. It's a requirement by DEP. Those conferences are in Daytona, Tampa, so on and so forth. Then you'll look to repairs to, where is it here? Excuse me. Dues and subscriptions. It's really not, I know it says 167, but we're talking less than $1,000. That is, again, some of the software and things in order to do compliance with SwiftMud and DEP and reporting and things of that nature. So that's part of that. Training schools and seminars, same thing as the travel. Those conferences do have a cost, and so we made sure that we had the real cost in there. Water analysis, that's twofold. That's our well operators. And what that is in particular is an increase. He hadn't raised us and made any change in like 5 years. And this year he came to us early and said, I am going to have to do an increase, and that is the increase that you see. And all the sampling and everything in the water is included, so they handle all of that. Other than that, we basically have fuel and vehicle repair maintenance, of course, went up because we added a truck or two to the fleet through auctions and acquisitions with Danny. Other than that, if you have any questions, again, everything has sinking funds. You see one there. There was one in sewer. There was one in gas.
And the payroll adjustments. A pot of money there.
Question.
Mr. Robinson.
Can they do CEs online?
CEUs are generally for water, required by Florida Rural Water to be done in person, or if it's the University of Florida through TRIO, again in person. So there's
they
not,
can't do CEs online?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's very rare that something's offered online.
Okay.
Good question. All right. Put a check mark on water. And then we have stormwater.
House Bill 53 we did a few years ago. We were the only one to turn it in. We've applied for a lot of grants dealing with stormwater. This is why we created this department and had to show some sort of a budget. We have projects at Cornelius Williams that are going to require stormwater changes. So last year it was at $50,000 to work on the budget. We reduced that by half. Obviously we didn't use very much of it, but that's your stormwater budget there shown. It's not half, I'm sorry, it's 35. There's 10,000 in a sinking fund.
Okay.
No personnel.
No personnel and stormwater.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess now we'll move. My only two areas of concern now are the staffing plan
Yes, ma'am.
and the, it just went out of my head just as fast as it went. I'll think of it again in a minute. Staffing plan. Let's go to the staffing plan first then. So most of it has the pot of money.
Yes, ma'am.
Except for those that are salaried.
Yes, ma'am.
I know Mr. Miller is salaried,
Yes, ma'am.
so he's not included in that pot of money. Who else is salaried on here?
That would be Jonathan.
Yep.
And I'm looking to move to salary.
Okay. So very briefly, most of them have that pot of money because so we don't really have an increase anywhere. Most of them. I know some of these people I looked because I didn't know that pot of money was there. Under each one, I wrote, when was the last increase? Because there showed no increase. And there were some people that I would give them a whopping increase because I see them all over town working their heart out. And some of those people may be salaried for all I know.
Yep.
Are any of the other crew leaders salaried?
Crew leaders are hourly employees.
Okay, so all of the crew leaders are salaried, are hourly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so then the two we need to consider then that are left are you and Mr. Bishop.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're on page 9 of the staffing fund. Is everybody on that page? That's the original staffing plan. We also have this other one that was given to us. I don't know. Yes, they're on that page too, but that page I can't read the number on. And it's very unusual because the numbers are different. I don't know why they're different. But they are different. Only by a few numbers. Let's take Mr. Bishop, for example. It says his total pay is $88,762. On this other paper it says 88,712. I realize that's not much.
It could just be, it's rounding.
Okay. All right, so not worry about just insignificant. Because over here it doesn't have the hourly rates, it only has the well, what I thought was salary, but it's not necessarily. Okay, Mr. Bishop. And did he put this number in here? Who put this number in here, the 1128?
You mean as far as the increase?
Uh-huh.
That would be me.
You put that number in for him. I know he hadn't been here for a few weeks, that's why I asked that question that way.
Well, we've had the budget done a while, but yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then for yourself as well. Does everybody see that? So I just need some discussion on that.
So if I may?
I'm asking them first.
Sure.
They may not care. So if so, we don't need discussion.
Well, 36% increase brings him up to 88,712 from 65,249.60, which actually is more than the city manager. And 36% increase, I just cannot see a 36% increase. I mean, we were talking about $7 an hour here for a couple of people and shot them down. And here we are looking at $11.28 more an hour. We're $23,462.40 increase for this next budget. And I just, not saying he's not entitled to something, but this kind of money, I can't see it.
Anybody else?
Tell me the reasoning behind that amount.
Earlier I mentioned when Aaron brought his things forward that there were 3 employees that when all the adjustments were made were not allowed to make any comparisons. So when everyone across the entire city was able to put in comparison salaries, we were given no increase, 0. Last year again, we were put in for a 0 increase until the president suggested that we get something. So we're both in the same position. The reason why I'm paid hourly is because I was promised to make an adjustment based on how the process went in the switchover. We inherited 7-8 departments that were an absolute abysmal mess with reports that were defunct and all kinds of issues. We have spent a couple of years trying to rebuild those programs and be in compliance. I actually, in this, am taking a pay cut. I am compensated hourly. If Stephen wants to pull up the last 2 fiscal years, what I've brought in, this is actually a pay cut for me. So if y'all are not interested, then I'll just stay hourly, that's fine. But I make more money than what I'm requesting for myself. I think it's like an average of 10 or 11.
What do you mean, what you brought in? I don't know what you mean by that.
After overtime. It is
so your total
what
pay
I'm
is what you
asking,
make.
my total pay, it is less than what I've been compensated for the last 2 years.
How much overtime are you doing?
On average, between 25 and 40 a week. And I'm here, and I'm doing the work.
So there's some weeks you're doing 80-hour weeks?
There are weeks that I do more than that. Utilities is about compliance. Things either get done or the city has fines. I believe every council member will say that when I'm called, I answer my phone. So if I'm in the hospital having a child, if I'm on vacation, I answer my phone.
You're not having a child, you're supporting.
I'm supporting the wife. Fine.
You bring her pizza.
So I can say that many come and ask me to get things done, not just the council, but staff members in all other departments. I believe I meet those expectations and get those things done in a timely manner. So That's all I can say in regards to that.
And the amount that he is asking for is $12 increase, for $24,960.
Yeah, I can tell you there's no way I wanna pay him more than I pay my city manager. So we need to recalculate that, in my opinion.
Pay your city manager more.
When you say you went across the state of Florida, who all did you compare?
Are you referring to mine, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all that I could find that's available is Assistant Public Works, and again, this is just the Parks Department. That was Lake Mary, that's base 104. Deputy Director of Public Works, City of Palmetto, again, that's just Parks. The base is 79,727. Assistant Public Works for facilities only, the base is 102 for Sumter County. Deputy Director of Public Works for Clay County, between 28 and 35 an hour. Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Margate, base 94. Deputy Director of Public Works, again, this is just for water, City of Deltona, base 84,906. I have 11 here that I can give you.
Okay, what comparable municipalities
Yeah,
to Williston did
So
you
there
look at?
aren't because no other comparable municipalities of our size have water, wastewater, sewer, gas, streets, parks, stormwater. They separate all those budgets. So you would have a director or an assistant director on each one of those enterprise funds. So we can't do a comparison because no one does that. No one does all those functions.
Okay, you say that you're entitled to $24,000 a year increase.
No, sir, I didn't say that.
It says so right here.
24,960.
I made comparables like everyone got to do the last 2 years. That's all I did.
But you put in this budget here, $12 an hour, that's $24,960.
Yes, sir, for a pay cut.
For a what?
For a pay cut, to make less money the next fiscal year than I did the last 2. Because I would be going to salary.
And your salary would be what?
Right here. What's being proposed?
$74,152?
Yes, sir.
How much you make in overtime last year? Just in overtime.
Probably close to 35,000.
So that would put you up around 85 total for last year.
Yes, sir.
Approximately.
Yes, sir. I've asked to come in and go salary the last 2 years. I was told I wasn't allowed to present it by the former city manager.
You don't have any documentation of that?
I have witnesses on staff.
Why would you want to take a pay cut?
Because I'm trying to do the right thing and go salary. Because I didn't create this arrangement. This is the arrangement I was put into by an HR and a city manager at the time who didn't want to compensate, and the exact statement was, it looks better on paper to have a low hourly rate.
Now, you are a supervisor, you should be salaried.
I agree.
You should be an exempt employee. And I can understand raising the hourly rate for a salaried employee. I just don't know that we can go all the way to $12. I know what you're saying, that you're making more than that now.
Y'all waiting for me to chime in?
I can't, I can't agree with it, but that's just me.
Go ahead, Miss. Go ahead, city manager.
So yeah, regardless of the cost, yes, I have actually been pushing for Donald to go salary since I arrived in September. So that has been a goal of mine, to reduce the overall cost of the hourly amount. And be honest with you, to reduce the actual amount of time that he works. He does work, he is there, there's no doubt in my mind that he's earned the money. He's a significant part of the team, you know, but in my mind, he probably works too much and is not healthy. So yes, I've been pushing it since September for him to go salary, and that's probably the reason why he's made the statement he's made here tonight.
I agree that he's works all the time. If you're out and about in the town, you'll see him there, even in the evening times. So if he does go hourly, it actually will save us some money.
Salary. Yes,
Salary, sorry.
If he cuts back on his hours, it will save us some money, whether he goes salary or not.
I can't imagine that we'd let him work 40 hours of overtime over a week.
Agreed.
I want to say this isn't like a choice.
It is a choice.
If someone's not here to do certain things and they don't get done, the council's going to have gas audits that come back that you fail. We're going to have compliance problems. Reports aren't going to be turned in. I'm doing the work that's required to meet the standards of compliance that the federal and the state government have over a municipality providing essential services. So I'm not here because I want to be. I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, an almost 2-year-old in a couple of days.
That's why you're here.
And an 8-month-old. And I love those children, and I'd like to spend more time with them. But again, in another town, you would have a director and an assistant director that would be over water. You would have someone over waste. You would have someone over streets and parks. You would have someone over gas. These are enterprise funds.
Do you not have supervisors in these departments?
We have crew leaders. We have a supervisor in electric, who is also our lineman, which is why we're asking for a lineman, because he's not able to do both functions. He works as salary. He probably puts in 20 plus hours of overtime a week easily and is uncompensated because he's both the supervisor, the man directly, and on top of that, the lineman. Then you have gas. Gas has a crew leader. Absolutely, he helps run daily operations and is licensed. You have a water crew leader, which is vacant right now currently. Then we have a streets and parks crew leader, and then we have nope, that's it. There's no crew leaders over sewer.
No, there's no question the work that you perform and how much you're out and how much you do. There's just absolutely no question about that whatsoever. And I think we all see that. And if we don't, then we need to take off our rose-colored glasses and look at it and watch and see how much you do. Unfortunately, we're a small town. This is remote.
Yeah, those comps that you named are large places that have multiple
and counties.
Residents and counties that have thousands of people, some hundreds of thousands of people.
Does Jonathan work the same amount of hours? Does he work hours like you work?
I'll let Jonathan answer that question.
Okay, where's that report that shows the overtime? You have one. Is there a page that shows overtime? There's not, is there?
No, not on a per person basis like that.
Okay, it just shows the whole department.
Yeah, I actually track it. I was trying to find it, but I can't find it from home.
Right.
And I thought it was more around about $30,000 a year. So if you took into account his salary, we put him around about $80,000 in overtime, or not overtime, but total, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to move him to salary.
So we're gonna move him to salary, pay him about the same amount that he's getting paid with overtime, but decrease his hours.
No, there's not a comparison. There's a $10,000+ difference, and it's less.
Approximately the same amount. I mean, yeah, it's $10,000. It is a lot.
But as somebody, are you salaried or are you hourly at work?
I'm hourly.
You're hourly. Well, I can tell you the entire, but maybe the first 2 years I worked in a hospital, and I worked there for 30 years. I was salaried. And just like you say, you stay until the job is done. It's what you do, but it's what you expect when you're salaried. And I never once said I had to stay here 20 more hours to get my job done. I knew what my job was when I took that salaried job. And I realize you're not salaried, and that's probably why you're not salaried at the moment. Because you know how long it takes to do the job.
I didn't know in the beginning. When I was approached, as again, I was ordered to do this. I was given no adjustment from going from the crew leader of the water, gas, and sewer department to basically the second over all the divisions. And I was given no bump at the time. Then we came up to a budget. I was given no bump there. I wasn't allowed to bring up comparables. Then last year again was told I couldn't bring anything up. And then you graciously stated, as you noticed, that John and I, again, for a second year in a row of having taken over the departments, had received nothing, and you insisted on $1 an hour. So that's what I've received. And if the council feels that, whatever you guys decide to do, that's what it is.
I'll give you some numbers, like numbers.
All right. Yes, you're good.
So,
we talked long enough for you to find them, huh?
Yeah, you did. Thank you. So from January through payroll is on a calendar basis. So the first 6 months of this year, a little bit over $18,000.
In overtime.
In overtime, about 508 hours.
Wow.
And so obviously, if that's over a year, it's pretty close to what the city manager said, about 36,000, or about 1,000 hours of overtime.
Wow. Lord. You gotta go home, Donald.
Well, how's this gonna make you go home, like, the manager said, city manager said, how's moving you to salary gonna make you go home? Them tasks are still gonna be there, you're still gonna put in the same amount of hours.
So that's what the city manager stated. That's not what I stated. I have licenses, and I'm criminally liable for negligence. Not just for myself, but those that work under me. I take that seriously. 1959, we've had gas. We've never had a casualty. I don't mean a death. I mean a casualty in the town. We want to keep those safety standards. So I'm not saying I'm going to go home, unless I'm ordered to go home.
I just want you to go home.
I mean, the alternative is that, you guys change the staffing plan and you bring in people to run gas, and you bring in people to run electric, and you bring in people to run water, and you bring people to run the sewer plant. That's how other towns do it. I mean, that's the other option if you want to reduce how much an individual has to spend complying with these things. I don't know how else to
So
say
can
that.
you teach the crew leaders to do those things?
Sure, I mean, over time, over experience, but again, once they take over those duties, you're still compensating them for those duties as well. A lot of this we inherited 2 years ago, and nothing had been done to the standard that it was supposed to be done. We spent the last 2 years learning some of those things and avoiding massive amounts of fines, meeting with regulatory agencies, begging for forgiveness, getting them to say we won't fine you, and then teaching us how to do things the right way.
Right. I am aware of that. Thank you very much. I'm serious. Yeah. What? You just shut him down. How did you do that? Why did you do that?
I just wanted to say something really quick about Jonathan, Donald, Aaron, Terry, me.
Before you say it, let me say
us.
we love all these people.
No, I know.
And we know what a great job they do. It's just a matter of money that we don't have.
They all do many hats, which Aaron likes to say, many hats. And unfortunately, if you lose this staff, which you're not going to lose me, but if you lose this staff for any reason, you are not going to be able to hire anybody for anywhere near what you're paying any of us. You can't do it. There's nobody that's going to be licensed and a supervisor's skills to be over 7 departments. They just don't exist. And we're this way because you taught us. You trained us. You guys invested this money
Y'all
in
trained
us.
each other. Y'all did good.
Yeah, I mean, you invested this money in us so that we can do all these many hats. But you've kind of pinholed some of us or yourselves in a way, because you're never going to be able to replace some of these people. So I just wanted you to remember.
But I can't transfer
Laura.
$1.4 million from the general, from the
Yes,
utility
ma'am.
fund.
That's a deal.
We hadn't even gotten to that part yet.
Laura, where are you gonna come up with the money?
It's only a matter of
How?
money, that's what it takes.
How? Where?
So, well, there are other cuts that could maybe be made. I made a lot of cuts out of my budget. Maybe there are other cuts that can be made, but the staff you don't want to lose. So we'll find ways to get the money, but you cannot lose the staff. The staff is really, really good.
Mr. Fuller?
It seems,
Yeah, for the record, you gotta go right there.
it seems to me that maybe you're looking at it the wrong way, or there may be an alternative way, because we're talking about fear of losing staff. What if indeed there was another person hired that they could train, or that may be going to some of these workshops training, because then you're not so worried about someone being pulled away.
Like that crew leader that they could train to do the reporting.
Or even an extra person, because for the 70-some thousand you're talking about increasing, or 60, hire somebody at 50 or 45,000 that could be an assistant and cut some of those hours.
We've got to, for his own health, we've got to do it. I mean, I can't believe you're working that many. I had no idea you're working 100 hours overtime.
He's all right.
No, he's
all right.
not. He's blood red every time I see him. I worry about his blood pressure. Oh. All right, y'all. I think we've talked to a blue. Again, I really don't. Mr. Bishop's not here to talk for himself, but I do not want to pay the Director of Utilities more than I pay my city manager. So if we could whittle that down a little bit, even if it's, I don't know, $6 or $7 an hour instead of 11. Because right now I think he's making 65, and he wants, and what we have here is 88.
Yeah, but I don't think he's asking for 88. Donald, do we have any idea what Jonathan's asking for?
No, sir.
Right.
Well, let's put it this way, if we move Mr. Barber to 74, Mr. Bishop needs to make more than that.
Well, I would agree, but the question would be how much more. And, you know, like I said, I think we all agree that the overtime is an issue. Yeah, I should, Steve, did you say about 1,000 hours a year?
Yeah, again, it's the run rate would be about over 1,000 this year,
For a year, correct?
for a year.
Yeah, so that's roughly about 20 hours extra every week. So that's 120 hours every 2 weeks. And I know sometimes it's more. We've had some really bad problems. We've had these major water leaks and issues and stuff that they've worked all through the weekend. So sometimes I realize it's more than 120 hours every 2 weeks, but they add up. That was simply my goal. I mean, I did not know. Well, I knew they told me that about this deal about the hourly and paying more overtime, and it's just something that I have a hard time wrapping my arms around. And he needs to be salary. We need to pay him a rightful wage, but I don't think we're going to pay Jonathan 88,000 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
If you can figure out what's a real number, a good number for Donald, or Donald, are you telling me that's it, 74, 152, and you're done?
I'm not telling you anything.
So,
I mean, I'll go to 74 for Mr. Barber, but I'll
I'm sorry,
probably
say that
wouldn't
again.
do more than 76, 77 for Mr. Bishop.
yeah, I would agree. I would agree 100%.
I mean, he's
So-
at 65 now. Well, he's the director, he needs to make more than Mr. Barber.
Yeah, and like I said, I was not aware, I mean, they told me, I have no proof, just like Councilmember Vice President Robinson asked, I have no proof that they were told not to put in anything the last 2 years, or not to do their comps. I guess we can go back to budget and tell, but, certainly I will assure you I will save money by moving him to salary, I can almost guarantee you that.
And that's the only reason I would agree to it, because I know it's gonna save money and hopefully get him to go home.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I stress over this every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And also keeping us in compliance saves us money too.
Absolutely. But I really would like for you to teach those crew leaders how to do their own reports.
We're working on that.
Make a goal of that. And if the crew leader's not
So I will say this
ready
about
to do that,
the reports. Agencies require point of contacts. At most, those can be 1 or 2 individuals. You can't have just anybody filling out reports and turning them into SwiftMud, DEP. You can't do that. The Public Service Commission, they come in, they have to talk to 1 or 2 individuals, and they expect to just deal with those 1 or 2 individuals. We have to sign these reports.
I know, but they could do the reports.
Well,
You have to have confidence in them.
the administrative
Obviously.
assistant with us
Right.
does the reports. These are things that are compiled over long periods of time. If you're asking if they bring in the information, yes.
But it's not something you're staying here to do. That's what I thought it was, that you, that was one of the reasons you were
Typically
staying.
how a day goes is we arrive at 7:30, and at 4 o'clock I haven't sat down at my desk because we've been dealing with emergencies in the town. We've been dealing with jobs in the town. So I sit down at my desk at 4 o'clock, and I'm here until all my emails are answered, until all the work and things are typed up, until all, that's because that's the part of my job that I have to do. So
sometimes things have to roll to the next day.
So can I say that? Can I say that when they come to us?
If they're an email or something like that. My emails roll every day. Sometimes you just don't get them all done.
And then they come in here as a citizen and they complain to y'all. And then you guys look at us and say, please answer what's going on here. So,
What did you say, Deborah? What were the numbers you gave?
I just don't understand how you can justify increasing somebody's salary by $24,000, but yet only increasing somebody else's by 2.
Well, one way
Because he's so far underneath.
one way that you can do that is
Where?
Do what now?
So far underneath where? You said you're gonna increase Mr. Barnes to 74.
Right, because he's making 49 at the moment. And that's not a lot. I'll honestly say
No, it's
that's not a lot for what he's doing, and not even counting the overtime. I know what he does every day. And 49 is not enough.
So can I ask this question? If we pay him the 74, Donald, have you decreased the overtime out of the budget?
yes, sir, that eliminates all of mine out of the budget.
So it's a wash. So you're telling me we will go back to utilities?
It's between a $10,000 and $12,000 net gain for the city if we remove the overtime from me and go to the salary rate. If that's
Right, but my question is, if we give you the money, if the city council gives you the money,
You would have to be
will we
salary.
going back to utilities and deducting out the overtime already factored in for this 24 budget?
The overtime in the budget does not reflect my overtime. We did not increase that according to that. We've never budgeted for it. We've just always been way over.
We just always sucked it up somewhere.
Correct. It's just a budget amendment at the end of the year. So the difference is between year to year between 12 and 15,000 extra.
Right, and last year I had him at 29,633, I think is what it was.
As overtime,
Yes, ma'am.
29,000.
How much overtime for Johnson? Any?
He's
Well, he's
salaried, so he doesn't.
He's already salaried.
He works.
Yeah, and he doesn't need an $11.28 an hour raise.
So we know where we can get Donald's money, where he
Right.
makes money, but where do we get Jonathan's money? Where does that come from?
Jonathan's currently making 65,250.
That's still a big raise there to.
And I'd probably take it to like 78, not 88.
I think you could make it in 75. You know, there's very little difference between the chief and the captain, I believe,
Okay.
at the PD.
That works for me. I think Jonathan would be happy with that.
I'm sure he would. I would be.
Me too.
Ms. Jones, can I say something real quick?
Well, the increase for Donald is a no-brainer, in my opinion, because he's making almost 100,000 right now with his overtime. So if we,
Yeah.
So I'm really, if you'll allow me just one more second, Madam President, I'm really faced with just really two options here, because it's the point where either I push him in the salary and pay him what we consider to be an acceptable range, or I physically deny him the overtime to bring that money down to where it's at, and then I don't know where we would be from there. But there's no way for me to really control it, because a lot of it is like that big pipe we had burst on 8th Street. It was 3 days worth of work on the weekend and a holiday. I mean, it's just.
right, because
you can't guess
Jonathan's
when it's
got
gonna
that
happen.
too. He's got that going on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's getting paid now, but because he's already salaried, but he's being uncompensated. Just as we've heard from these other two. And I hear Mr. Willis has comments, but I'd like to hear it.
We have talked about the definition of compression for the past couple of years. Right now, there's a $16,000 difference between those two positions. You are talking about making it 1,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like compression.
That's why I can't go 75.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be more than 75. That's why I said 78. It's not much better, but.
What?
What does the fire chief make?
What does the fire chief make? The fire chief makes 72. 746. What does the police chief make? I don't think I have that page. I haven't.
Madam President, if I may, don't forget that Jonathan, not that I think he needs 100,000, whatever, but he's been here 26-something years. And CJ was making in the 80s when Jonathan took over that job and got much less. So just remember that.
So I show the proposed, good point, Lori, thank you.
Thank you.
I show the proposed pay rate for the chief of police at 81,432.
Yes.
If we're gonna talk about seniority, when it comes to department heads, there is nobody in this city that has more seniority as a department head than I do. And I'm nothing against Donald, Jonathan, or anybody else, but you gotta take all that into consideration when we talk about giving people raises.
You do.
Especially that amount of money in
Well-
1 year.
Well, that was one thing that I wished had been on here, and I actually wrote it down on my very front sheet, was that I would like to have seen the date of hire, so that I would know how long people had been here. Not that it's always the most important thing, but even the year of hire would have helped me. Or years of service, whatever that number might be, it might be easier to come up with. Because that is the case. And some people have moved from a lower position into a higher position, and that's why they are a lower position. I mean, that's why they got a lower amount of money, because they never were brought up necessarily to where they moved to. How about that for attitude?
Well, something else again, if I just may speak, this may just be one of those things that I'm not gonna be able to accomplish, in moving him to a salary position.
Well, there's-
which is my goal, so.
You mean Donald, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I think, I'm willing to do that because it saves us money. And hopefully, like I said, we'll make him go home. Don't know that it will.
Either way, all those people, if there was an emergency, pipe break, fire, shooting, or whatever, will be there.
Yeah, they will.
Because they care about the town.
Yes, they do.
It's just not their job, it's that they care.
Right.
You know, when I came aboard, I spent time with police chief, fire chief, spent time with police chief, fire chief, Donald, Jonathan took me around, and 100% difference in the way that our lift stations look, the way they fixed up out at the retention ponds, and things like that. Didn't look like that before.
Right. Well maintained.
It's well maintained. If we have to have certifications, if we get fined, it's gonna cost us a whole lot more money.
Well, Donald's the one with the certifications. I don't know how many Jonathan actually has. He has some. Okay, let's do something.
You won't throw out number out.
Throw a number out. Let's hear it.
72 for Donald, 75 for Jonathan. And it doesn't matter what kind of number we put up here. You got people in this city that's gonna be ticked off at it.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, if it wasn't for the utility department, we probably wouldn't have a city. We definitely wouldn't have a police department. Probably not a fire department.
Or parks, or streets, or roads. That funds all those things.
How about 60 for Donald and 70, 76 for Jonathan?
And how much for Donald?
60.
60?
So that would increase him by 11 grand.
No.
But he's not gonna be working all the hours. That's the plan.
But he's going to salary.
Yeah, I think the 72, 74 or 72 is contingent upon
You
you
want a
going to
man
salary.
that's getting paid $85,000,
down.
approximately $85,000 a year to go in and take salary for 60 and work the same amount of hours.
He's not supposed to work the same amount of hours. That's what it's.
How do you know that? That's his job.
Guarantee you.
Has to.
You have no idea.
And with the
I'm
pipe,
just saying what the city manager said, that he's trying to get him to decrease hours, so don't be looking at me like that.
But he won't. We know Donald.
and with our antiquated,
He's gonna have to, or he's gonna be
Pipes
sick.
they're always on call. Because we got water leaks.
Well, whatever is done, I mean, you can't,
It's almost tomorrow.
there still needs to be a separation in the pay. And $2,000 or $3,000 is not good.
I'm okay with the 75 and the 72. I'm looking at that down there. say.
Right, but if you sit here and you agree to it, now you gotta try to figure out what to get.
Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna give Mr. Bloom the new numbers. And he's gonna go back and he's gonna revise. We haven't done a whole lot to help you, I can tell you. Because our problem is, once we see the transfer amount, which we haven't even talked about, we're gonna know how much we wanna cut. And we may have to commission them to go back and find those cuts.
Keep in mind that none of these discussions affect the transfer. This is all utility you're talking about now.
Huh.
So cutting this does not change. the
That's very
transfer.
true.
And by the way, the transfer is 1.5.
Not 1.4, it's 1.5. Great.
So, and anything you cut the transfer would have to come out of the general fund.
That's true. And we didn't help you there very much.
About $20,000.
Yeah. And we transferred how much last year? 900? 1.1. There's no way I want to do more than 1.1.
Oh, we still
Y'all
here.
laughing. Y'all are laughing.
No, it's just
Where are we going to get $1.5 million?
from the utility fund.
An extra $400,000.
From the utility fund. We've already balanced the budget to that point.
It is if you transfer $1.5 million.
So here's the short answer to that. The short answer is what's funding that is your utility rate increases. That's what the staff did the rate studies for all the utilities, and all those increases are built in, which is allowing you to transfer an additional $400,000.
And are they in here already?
Council President Jones, there was $500,000 of ARPA the last 2 years that were used in both budgets, and that's the other element that we're forgetting. So when you talk about 1.1 to 1.5, a lot of that was plugged in from ARPA. I know it doesn't transfer to the general fund, I get that, but what I'm saying is we took bylines out of like water and wastewater, materials and supplies, this, that, and the other, and what was normally funding that in those funds went directly to the general fund, and what paid for those funds was ARPA. So
ARPA's gone.
Absolutely, I understand that, but I just want to make sure that council knew that despite increases in costs and salaries and all these different types of things, we lost about $500,000 right off the bat as a deficit, and so that was built into the rate study.
Sorry, I'm really.
You don't need to be sharing a mic.
I think that what you guys are, these are a lot of numbers, but what you're forgetting are there's two things next year that aren't going to be happening again, and they're both mandated things. One of them is the comp plan, which is $150,000, and one of them is the communications, which was $250,000, which is $400,000. So
that's a loan.
Neither one of them. Oh, so you're not.
I know, but
mine's
I'm
not
thinking
loan.
about an audit that tells. I'm thinking about an audit that tells me I don't have enough money in reserves. That's what I'm thinking about.
I'm thinking about, do we have enough reserve in the general fund and also in the utility fund, and how that audit will come about with those reserves or lack of reserves.
Because you definitely don't want to get in that situation, because if you do, the state will be all over us.
Yes, ma'am, that's more a Stephen question than a Lauren.
And not to mention Stephen, that's right. Stevens gets all over us first, and then we don't pay attention to him. And then they get all over us because we are not running the city like we need to be running it.
So your budget that you have in front of you has $2.1 million of additional revenue from rate increases. And that's what's kind of covering, that's what's funding the ARPA shortfall, and now part of it is not funding the general fund.
Stephen, can you speak up?
Use your mic, please.
Sorry. I was saying that within this budget right now, there's $2.1 million worth of additional revenue related to the different utilities for the rate studies. And that 2.1 is necessary to cover the ARPA. And again, ARPA was a one-time deal. Also pension, FRS, again, going back to insurance premiums, and then new positions and payroll adjustments. So that's how it's being done.
Yeah, so much for funding capital needs, right?
And again, but now to say that point, there are sinking funds now in each of these that were not there, before the rate study revenue was available. So it would be extremely difficult to find 400,000 out of the general fund.
I know.
Just
because I know they've cut it as much as they can cut it.
when we started this process, we had a deficit in the general fund of almost 400,000.
And in utilities of 343,000.
Yeah. So we had already kind of gone through that just to get the where we are now.
When's our next workshop?
Oh my God, we need to set one.
It's
Mr. Fuller.
September. August 25th.
I just hope we keep in mind that you've gone to the citizens for rate increases already. Don't mess around and make a mistake that we gotta go back, because in 2 years we've gone to them 2 times and we've increased. And the citizens can only bear so much. And so as you're thinking about where do we get the money, let's not make a decision that 2 years down the road we go back to another rate increase. And that rate increase is not because of the cost of utilities as much as it is because of how the city is being operated. And so we need to be careful about just what burden we actually put on the citizens, call it a rate increase, when in actuality it is a tax.
No, not a tax. It's based on usage.
It is a tax because if you increase it and you use it in another place, it is a tax. And we have to be careful. You can call it anything you want to.
I'm sorry to say we'll disagree about that.
Yeah. But ultimately,
because it's based on the consumption that the resident uses.
It's based on consumption, but when you raise the rate,
we haven't. And you said we raised the rate last year. We did not raise the rate last year. We didn't raise it like the year before. We haven't raised utility rates in years.
8.7%, I think it was, or 8.9%. Yes, you did.
What did we raise? 8.5%.
Electric utility rates. Yes, you did. Check your record.
Or this year? This year we did.
It was year before. Excuse me, that was year before last. They were supposed to last us for a while, and it lasted us no time. And then we come back with this humongous increase this year, once again. And let's make sure that that large increase is sufficient for some period of time, and that we don't go back and go to the citizens again. Because there's some citizens that, when we're talking about all these large increases, their Social Security does not cover that.
Right.
And so they're being taxed at a rate that they can't afford to continue to do that.
Not a tax, based on their usage. We'll disagree. We'll agree to disagree on that.
We can disagree, but ultimately,
it's a service that they use.
It is a service.
If not a tax, is what I'm disagreeing with. The word the tax is not what we are.
Yeah.
Didn't say it wasn't an increase. It said it wasn't a tax.
If you're levying it over and above what they're paying.
I'm not levying it. They're using it as consumption. Based on their consumption, they could
You're
lower.
Charging more per kilowatt hour.
And that's consumption.
Yeah.
That's consumption.
And revenue is what?
Revenue is what? Revenue is
tax.
Funding. No, it's
Go
not.
to your dictionary.
Like I said, we'll agree to disagree all night long. And I don't know if we need any further discussion on the transfer. Anybody else want to talk about the transfer? All right, so we need to look at our calendar and see when we can come back and discuss it again. The ones on your calendar now are the ones that are going to be advertised. Somebody remind me of the page number. 11, was it?
It's always September.
Yeah, those are.
It's all in September.
I know, but we could
Yeah,
come in August.
So Madam President, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it the will of the council that we meet and try to resolve some of these issues and wait to see what Stephen comes back with? Or how much work do you want us to do between now and the next time we meet as the general staff?
I would say I don't think it matters. I don't think it would hurt if you met with the department heads again to make sure they're as lean as they can get. And if they can make an adjustment, fine. But yes, Mr. Bloom can bring us back. He says he's only heard like $20,000 to help in the general fund. Yeah, if anything, it's going to go up instead of down, right?
No, it's,
So
I've been running the numbers since we've been talking.
Okay.
It's down 20.
So anybody want to meet in mid-August maybe? What's the in-between date between our council meeting members?
August 16th.
You're so good. Already there, aren't you? 16th is a Wednesday. So we're actually, our council meetings are what, the 8th and the 22nd? Because there's no first Monday before the first Tuesday. So our council meetings are the 8th and the 22nd.
What's wrong with the first?
Huh?
What's wrong with the first?
What day is it on?
We don't meet on the 1st. Because there's no Monday in front of a Tuesday.
No, it's talking about for the budget here. Or
Oh,
budget
you're saying do
workshop.
it on Tuesday, on the 1st? What's wrong with the 15th?
I was thinking that too. What about 15?
I'll be out of town on the first for that baseball tournament in North Carolina.
15.
I'll say the 15th. That gives Mr. Bloom staff time to take a double look.
5:30.
5:30?
6 o'clock since it's not advertised already. Because we had 2 people who had trouble getting here. August 15th at 6 o'clock. And we'll call it the second budget workshop. And we won't go through it like we did tonight. We'll just, only time we go through it like we did line by line tonight is the first time. So we won't have to do that the second time. All right, everybody okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Have to be, right?
If we win that tournament, then I will be in the World Series, but I don't think we're gonna.
Hey, we're gonna hope for that. We're gonna hope for that. We're gonna hope for
I
that.
hope we win.
I hope you win too. How about do we have any further public participation that we have tonight? Miss Patricia.
I just have one thing.
You're still awake. You've been mighty quiet tonight.
On the first regular meeting in August the 8th, I would like to take pictures of every council member again to update the ones on the wall, please.
When?
August the 8th.
August the 8th. August the 16th or the
August
8th?
the 8th.
August the 8th.
You can dress up and do all that stuff.
Yes, it's been 2 years.
I like that picture right there. Can you just keep that one up?
It's very dark. If you want to keep that one, but I would like for them to be consistent of the background and everything, please.
Okay, so remind us before that comes up, so we'll know to wear something decent.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I got something right back here first. I can't do it.
On Friday, the 28th at 10 o'clock at the police department, we will be doing the remembrance of David Moss. That's all I got.
Thank you for the Friday. Okay, I'll make your motion again.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we'll adjourn at whatever,
Still there?
11:32.
Yeah, you're still there.
So tell everybody no staff meeting tomorrow.
We got it.
Understood.
Got it.
Thank
So
you.
after
Is he coming
with
back?
the negative test, I will be in the morning.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.